2.5 Men, Reincarnated as Jake Harper. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Birthday. Tomorrow is my birthday. August 5th. I got out of bed and headed to the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. The smell of coffee and toast led the way. Charlie and Alan were already there, Charlie nursing a mug of coffee like it was the only thing keeping him alive, and Alan flipping through the newspaper like it was still 1995. One morning, almost birthday boy, Charlie said with a smirk. The studio's ready for you. All set to record, I nodded, grabbing a plate and helping myself to some breakfast. After we finished eating, the three of us got into the car and drove to an actual recording studio in town. Charlie had booked it for the morning session, mics, sound panels, a proper control room, and even a guy named Dave who looked like he hadn't blinked since 1998. It was oddly professional for something that started as a casual idea. As we walked into the studio, Alan looked around, clearly still trying to wrap his head around it. Are you sure this is what you want for your birthday? Alan asked, still not quite getting it. Come on, Alan, this is an easy one, Charlie said, rolling his eyes. Why are you trying to change his mind? I looked at both of them and shrugged. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. Behind us was a red curtain, giving the space a theatrical vibe. My dad stood on my left, while Uncle Charlie was on my right. Both were wearing tuxedos with classic black bow ties. I, of course, had to be different. I was in a matching tuxedo but with a red bow tie that popped against the dark suit. The cameraman gave us a thumbs up. We're rolling. Charlie stepped up to the microphone and, without missing a beat, started, men, manly men. 5. Then my dad joined in with his deep, goofy tone, ooh. Finally, I stepped forward and belted it out with them, men, manly men, ooh. Men, manly men, hoo men, manly men, and finished ha. We had to record it a few times, but finally, it turned out just the way I wanted. Perfect. 1. The morning of my actual birthday began with Uncle Charlie flipping pancakes while humming a tune that had no relation to the rhythm. Which sister is it again? He asked, feigning ignorance, even though we both knew he was talking about the one he'd hooked up with at my dad's wedding. I raised an eyebrow. Just try to behave. It's my birthday, not a cabaret, Charlie grinned. No promises. But I do have a surprise for you. I gave him another eyebrow raise before heading into the living room. Happy birthday. Rose appeared next, handing me a neatly wrapped box to a magic set. Awesome, I said, doing my best to sound genuinely excited. How lovely, Evelyn chimed in. Perhaps he'll grow up to be a Kearney. Rose ignored her. It includes 14 different illusions that will amaze and astound your friends. But, of course, your friends may be smarter than mine. Aren't you staying with us? I asked. Rose shook her head. I wish I could, but I gotta go to some clown's wedding. I'll try and come back for cake. Okay, I nodded and said thank you. You're welcome. Bye, Evelyn, Rose added. Bye. Thank you so much, Evelyn said, her tone vaguely patronizing. She sighed. Poor soul. I'm sure she meant well. Now, open Grandmammy's present. I remembered Rose as being completely crazy. So far, she seemed different, just a little eccentric. Still, I should probably come up with a plan in case she ever goes full sitcom crazy like in the show. Clothes. Happy birthday, Evelyn said. It's Calvin Klein, she added with a proud smile. You'll be a hit with the girls, trust me. Thank you, Grandma. This time, I really meant it. The doorbell rang. That's when Mom and her sister walked in. Hey, Aunt Liz, I said, giving her a hug. Nice dress, too it was. Especially if she was a high-end escort. That said, it was undeniable, my aunt was beautiful. There's my favorite nephew. Happy birthday, sweetie, Liz said, oblivious to my judgment. Hey everybody, Charlie said as he came from the kitchen. Uncle Charlie, look what Aunt Liz got me. I held up the skateboard she'd given me, again, putting on my best excited voice. Awesome, Uncle Charlie replied. I don't suppose you thought to buy him a safety helmet, Mom said. You ride with Aunt Liz, you take your chances. Right, Liz, Charlie smirked. Liz glanced Charlie up and down and turned to her sister. This guy? Are you sure? I muffled my laugh. The doorbell rang again. This time, it actually surprised me. Tori showed up with her sister Trina, drama in high heels. One Jake, happy birthday, Tori said, giving me a big hug. Trina offered a quick congrats, but seemed more interested in the house. Hey, Tori. Nice to see you again. Uncle Charlie gave me a mischievous grin and murmured, what do you think about your surprise? Then, like a perfectly timed sitcom moment, Sheldon and Missy showed up, clearly Judith stewing. Happy birthday, Jake, Missy said, giving me a hug. Then she looked to Tori standing next to me. Oh, boy, I murmured. Missy and Tori exchanged glances. What's wrong with them? Sheldon asked aloud, handing me a gift. You're a hopeless idiot, C-3PO, I muttered. Sheldon frowned, outraged. I have an IQ of 187. I'm a certified genius. 3. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 52, Birthday Chaos. Soon enough, I found myself squished on the couch, Tori on one side, Missy on the other. Trina hovered near the snack table like she was auditioning for a reality show. My aunt leaned toward my mom with a smirk. Jake's already popular. That's impressive. The doorbell rang, again. I stood up. What now? I muttered. I opened the door. Jake, Joni launched herself at me like a missile, arms wrapping tightly around my waist. I missed you. Behind her stood Frankie, the woman who once totaled her therapist's car. Yep. That Frankie. Tori and Missy both shot Joni synchronized glares. Joni, glowing with joy, remained blissfully unaware. I glanced at my dad, gritting my teeth. Charlie looked at Alan. You're an idiot. Then, another ring. I sighed. Maybe we should just leave the door open. This time, I saw someone I truly didn't expect, Paige Swanson. She looked at Joni glued to my side, then at Tori and Missy with their crossed arms, and immediately sized up the situation. A sly, mischievous smile curved across her face. Hi, darling, Paige said sweetly, wrapping her arms around my neck. Did you miss me? I knew you were trouble, I whispered. Her laugh was muffled into my shoulder. How did you even get here? I asked, genuinely curious. Last I knew, she was at Harvard. Your grandmother invited me. Paid for my whole family's flight. Alan and Charlie turned slowly to Evelyn. What? She said. The girl goes to Harvard. She's clearly the best one, too. Charlie stepped closer to me and murmured, so, how's it feel being the center of this fan club? Missy on my left. Tori on my right. Joni on my lap. Paige's arm around my shoulder. I sighed. Like I'm a Japanese Mick from Manisekai. 4. Charlie blinked. A what? 1. Later, Tori nudged me. Play something. It's your birthday, the others chimed in, encouraging. I sat at the piano. Silence settled. I played the first notes and sang. 1. 7 years, Lucas Graham. 4. Once I was 7 years old, my mama told me go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Judith watched from the corner, her expression softened. It was a big world, but we thought we were bigger, pushing each other to the limits. We were learning quicker. By 11, smoking herb and drinking burning liquor. Everyone slowly turned to look at Charlie. His eyes widened. That wasn't my fault. He was 12 when he came here, he whispered. 1. Never rich, so we were out to make that steady figure. Once I was 11 years old, my daddy told me go get yourself a wife or you'll be lonely. Everyone looked at Alan now. He shrugged, red-faced. It was a joke. Paige just looked teasing at Tori and Missy. I kept going. I always had that dream, like my daddy before me, so I started writing songs. I started writing stories. Something about that glory just always seemed to bore me, cause only those I really love will ever really know me. Once, I was 20 years old, my story got told before the morning sun, when life was lonely. Once, I was 20 years old, the room was still now. Focused. A little odd. I only see my goals. I don't believe in failure cause I know the smallest voices, they can make it major. I got my boys with me, at least those in favor, and if we don't meet before I leave, I hope I'll see you later. Soon we'll be 30 years old. Our songs have been sold, we've traveled around the world and we're still roaming. Soon we'll be 30 years old. I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me, some are still out seeking glory and some I had to leave behind. My brother, I'm still sorry, my voice lowered with a melody. Soon I'll be 60 years old. My daddy got 61. Hey, Alan snapped indignantly. I'll go beyond that. I laughed and kept going. Remember life and then your life becomes a better one. I made a man so happy when I wrote a letter once. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. Charlie and Alan were looking guilty to Grandma. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold? Or will I have a lot of children who can warm me? Soon, I'll be 60 years old. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold? Or will I have a lot of children who can hold me? Soon, I'll be 60 years old. One I ended with, once I was 7 years old. My mama told me go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. Once I was 7 years old there was silence. It kind of hit hard for most, until Trina said, he's cool, he's cute, he's rich, and he can sing, she exclaimed. He's going to be my boyfriend, she declared as she jumped on top of me. 3 and just like that, the chaos returned. Way to ruin the moment, later. Isn't our lover boy, said Charlie, smirking too. The girls gave me kisses on the cheek. It started when Trina went in for a kiss on the lips, but I dodged, so it landed on my cheek. Missy and Tora followed right after, probably not wanting to fall behind. Even Joni gave me a kiss, with encouragement from her mother. What was her mom even thinking? She's 8. Not that I'm okay with the others. Paige added one too, just for the fun of it. To be honest, my first attempt was Rory, Uncle Charlie said. But she quoted, I have nothing to do with a soon-to-be 13-year-old boy, and hung up. One figures, I muttered. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 53, The Call. A few days had passed since that messy birthday party. One of my eyes was slightly red, probably some kind of irritation, so I decided it was time to get it checked. Earlier today, I had a visit to the ophthalmologist. The clinic was bright, overly air-conditioned, and smelled faintly of disinfectant. I sat in the waiting room flipping through outdated magazines until a nurse called my name. Inside the exam room, the doctor asked me to sit in the big chair and rest my chin on the weird contraption with all the lenses. He ran a few tests, shined a blinding light into both my eyes, and asked me to follow his finger. Any discomfort? Blurry vision? Itchiness? Mostly twitching, I answered. One. The doctor chuckled. Maybe your eye has been twitching a lot lately. You have no idea, I said, leaning back. He nodded, scribbled a few notes on his clipboard, and stood. Your vision's perfectly fine. Just some irritation, probably due to screen time. Take these eye drops twice a day for a week. Everything else looks perfect, I thanked him, grabbed the prescription, and walked out. So, Uncle Charlie asked? It's nothing. Just need to use some eye drops. Later that morning, we got back home. After putting the drops in my eyes, I had an idea. I picked up the phone and called Rachel. Hello, is Rachel Brown there? Hello? No. There's only me, Rachel Green, came the familiar voice on the other end. You haven't matured yet, I asked in my usual voice to Jake. She exclaimed with excitement, then added, exasperated, really, Jake? I could almost see her deadpan face through the phone. One. You're becoming like Chandler, she said. One. I exaggerated a gasp. You take that back, I could hear some laughter from her. So why did you call? Rachel asked. You and Charlie are the same players. You never call me back. What about my feelings, Jake? I really need to talk to your uncle about what you're learning. I laughed and continued, I just called because I went to the doctor today. Ophthalmologist. I need eye drops. Just imagine me putting that liquid in my little eyes. One. I heard a small scream from her side. Hello, came another voice, Monica's. Hello, Monica, I said enthusiastically. Playfully, she asked, what did you do? Rachel is over here murmuring that little brat. Nothing, I replied innocently. And I really wanted to talk to you. Rachel said you don't get many friendly calls, so I'm calling to cheer you up. One. She said what? Monica's voice faded a bit. Then I heard her calling in the background, Rachel, what did you say to him? Suddenly, another voice came on, Chandler. Hey, you really know how to make chaos, he said playfully. I grinned. Thank you. I try. So, what's new? I asked. We are official. Official, Chandler said, his voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. Wait, really? I said, smiling. Wow, congrats, man. You and Monica? Power couple energy. I said it genuinely. I really like Monica and Chandler as a couple. Don't let her hear you say that, he whispered. She's already planning the color palette for the next 5 years. I heard that, Monica's voice called from the background. I laughed. Then Chandler said something I wasn't expecting. Hey, I still remember our promise. If it happens, I'm inviting you. Whoa, you're all in, aren't you? I said, a little surprised. Then, with a more serious tone, I added, go for it, Chandler. You absolutely can handle it. Believe it. Chandler laughed softly. Is it weird that I feel happy a 12-year-old kid is cheering me on, now, man? But it would be if it were a 12-year-old girl, I said with a smirk. And I'm 13 now, had my birthday a few days ago. Hey, congrats, little man, Chandler replied warmly. In the background, I heard Rachel's confused voice. Wait, what for? Chandler responded, it was his birthday a few days ago. Hey. Happy birthday, Jake, I could hear Rachel say now. She had taken the phone back. Thanks, Rachel, I replied with a grin she couldn't see, but probably imagined anyway. So, how was your birthday? She asked. A little bit messy, I admitted, laughing. Tell me everything, Rachel said. I knew there was no going back, she would nag until I told her. So I decided to narrate the whole day. As I started talking, I could hear Chandler and Monica's quiet breathing on the line, clearly listening in. By the time I finished, there were laughs on the other end. Oh, you, Mr. Popular, Rachel said, still giggling. So every family member invited a girl for you? I rolled my eyes, smiling. It wasn't like that. Well, maybe a little, but they're way too young. At most, I think of friendship. What about that Rory girl? Rachel asked. She ditched me. Can you believe it? The awesome me, I said, indignantly. More laughter followed. But you're okay, right? Rachel asked, a little bit concerned. Oh yeah. I was only attracted to her beauty. I don't have other feelings, and I don't even know her that well. I paused for a beat, then added with a smirk, but I wouldn't mind to remember one that got them all laughing again. The call went on for a little longer, with random jokes and sarcastic remarks flying back and forth. Eventually, Monica said she had to cook something before it burned. Chandler mumbled something about running from domestic responsibilities, and Rachel told me to call her more often. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 54, The Day After. Charlie, Alan, and I were sitting around the dining table, each of us poking at small, elegant boxes of fancy food from a new restaurant we had decided to try. This is really good, Charlie said, his voice slightly more alive than earlier. Check this out. He used a pair of wooden chopsticks to lift a bite-sized piece of what looked like seared tuna drizzled in some fancy glaze. I leaned over and took it off the chopsticks. Wow, that's good, I said, surprised. I'm ordering that next time. I took another bite, leaned back, and sighed contentedly. I love to be rich. Alan gave Charlie a look and said, you might not want to share your chopsticks with him. I think he's come down with something. I looked weirdly at Dad. Dad, I went to the ophthalmologist. No, I think you have a little flu, Alan said. One eye shrugged. If you say so. Charlie completely ignored the conversation and chimed in. Before I forget, you got plans for tomorrow night? No, Alan replied. Make some, Charlie said with a smirk. I'm gonna need the house to myself. I raised an eyebrow. Who's the lucky one? Kathy, Charlie said casually. She lives up the beach. Beautiful woman. Only problem, she's married to kind of a friend of mine, I scoffed. At least you have that limitation, but he cheats on her with her best friend, Charlie added. She throws him out. I get it, the revenge type, I said casually. Jake, Alan snapped. What? He cheats on her, she probably wants to do the same. Eye for an eye, you can even find that in the Bible. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, Alan said, shaking his head. I smirked. Yeah, well, I don't think Gandhi ever met Uncle Charlie. Charlie reached over and grabbed the last few pieces from my box. Hey, I said, only half serious. Alan raised an eyebrow. I told you not to eat his food. He's coming down with something. Charlie shrugged and popped a piece into his mouth. Relax. I never get sick. The next morning, I walked into the living room to find my dad bundled up in a hoodie, with tissues stuffed in his sleeves, sniffling miserably too. Yet, Dad, you were really correct, I said, watching him blow his nose like a foghorn. Alan looked up with watery eyes. This isn't funny. Charlie walked in, perfectly fine, sipping his coffee. Well, I can't say he didn't warn me. I shook my head, went to the kitchen, and grabbed a bottle of water. Then I dug through the cabinet until I found the flu medicine. 3 here, I said, handing them to Dad. Hydrate and medicate. 1. Alan gave me a weak smile. Thank you, Jake. I ordered chicken soup, so you don't have to worry about food. I added 1. Oh, Jake, I love you, Alan said dramatically, reaching out like he wanted to hug me. I took a few steps back. Let's save that for when you're not contagious, even if it was probably me who infected him. After making sure Dad was set up with soup, medicine, and a box of tissues, I grabbed my backpack and waited in the living room. Mom arrived shortly after. A few days later, I was back in Malibu. As soon as I walked into the house, Dad was already giving me a recap of everything that happened after I left. So Uncle Charlie got sick that day, huh? I said, then murmured, what a bad luck. Right then, Charlie walked in with his usual smug grin, looking bright and energized. Good morning, everyone, he said cheerfully, as if he hadn't been patient 2 days ago. I thought you'd be in a bad mood, I said, eyeing him. You didn't get the revenge type, Jake, Alan snapped. Yet, Charlie said with a touch of regret. But I got a little email this morning from an ex-girlfriend who says she needs to see me, he added, making air quotes with his fingers. Berta, who had just walked in with a laundry basket, raised an eyebrow. No kidding. I wonder if she's knocked up, she said, matching his air quotes perfectly too. I laughed. Then I paused for a second. Funny. It felt like I hadn't seen Berta in a long time, even though I'd literally seen her last week. 1. Nobody's knocked up, Charlie said quickly. I haven't heard from her in 5 years, so she's bringing you a 4-year-old, Berta replied, deadpan. Believe me, nobody's bringing anything, Charlie muttered. Remember Jill, he added. Jill the slob, Berta asked. Yeah, but do you remember how hot she was? Sure, she was a tight unit, Berta said, setting the basket down. But she left dirty dishes everywhere. Swear to God, this broad left half-eaten casseroles in the bathtub? So, Charlie shrugged. With a body like that, she could drink out of the toilet if she wanted to. EWW, Uncle Charlie, I groaned. I'm still eating here. Wait a minute. Isn't she the one who dumped you? Berta asked, narrowing her eyes. Somebody dumped Charlie, Dad and I said in unison. 1 broke his little black heart, Berta said with a smirk. It was pathetic. 1 She didn't dump me, Charlie insisted. She had personal problems and moved to Europe to, find herself. 3 Berta, Dad and I said, turning toward her. He wept, Berta said flatly. I did not. I felt the appropriate amount of sadness for a good relationship that had run its course, Charlie said, lifting his chin. We both looked at Berta again. I had to carry him to bed 3 nights in a row, she replied without missing a beat. I was perfectly happy sleeping under the deck, Charlie said defensively. Right, we replied in unison, giving him matching deadpan stares. 1 Dad and I perfectly timed side high five. 1 Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr. Up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, An Old Flame with a New Wick. Dad and I were still finishing our breakfast when Charlie went to meet Jill, twirling his car keys. Before he could step out the door, Berta yelled from the kitchen, "You bring her home, you clean up after." Then she glanced at Dad and added, "Thank God you never get any." 2 And turning her gaze to me, she finished, "And thank God you're too young." 1 Berta, Dad said, clearly offended. "What?" Berta shot back. "About you, it's true." "And him?" She pointed at me. "He's a smart and polite version of Charlie. Which really makes me worry about how much I'll have to clean his room in the future." "I'll give you a great raise," I said with a grin. See? Intelligent, Berta added, pointing at me again. 5. The next day, I was walking into the living room when the front door opened. Uncle Charlie stumbled in, clearly drunk. Behind him was some random guy I had never seen before, looking a little sober. "Hey, Uncle Charlie," I called out, trying not to laugh. "Bad luck again?" I asked, glancing at the guy trailing him in. "Hey Bill, this is my nephew Jake," Charlie slurred, waving an arm in my direction. "Hello, Jake," Bill said with a polite nod. "Charlie talked a lot about you last night." I stepped forward and offered a handshake. "Nice to meet you, Bill." The second our hands touched, my eyes widened. 5. Charlie definitely said Jill first. And now that I thought about it, I vaguely remembered one of Charlie's exes who had transitioned. In one of the episodes, without saying another word, I turned and bolted out. "Where are you going?" Charlie slurred behind me. I didn't answer. I headed straight to the desk in the living room. I remembered the photo, one I had once found in the drawer of that very desk, and asked Charlie about. He told me it was Jill. I yanked open the drawer and grabbed the framed picture. I walked back into the front door and stared at the photo, then looked up at Bill. Then back to the photo. Then to Bill again. Finally, I held it out in front of him. "Is this your sister?" I asked, "or did you go to Europe and come back with a sausage?" Charlie burst out laughing. "See? I told you he's a genius." I looked back at Bill and shrugged. "Hey, I'm not judging. And I won't judge if Uncle Charlie wants to try something different." 11. Charlie stared at me with a deadpan expression, clearly unamused. Bill, on the other hand, chuckled softly, shaking his head. Just then, a car horn honked from outside. "Hey, Mom's here," I said, heading toward the door. "I'll be back tomorrow, Uncle Charlie." "Good to meet you, Bill." The next day, I was back in Malibu. I dropped my bag by the door and made my way into the kitchen, where Berta was already brewing coffee and Charlie was nursing what looked like the world's worst hangover. "Rough night?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Charlie just grunted, shielding his eyes from the sunlight streaming through the windows. At that moment, the front door swung open again. Evelyn walked in, arm in arm with Bill. They both looked surprisingly cheerful. "Hi, everyone," Evelyn said brightly. I blinked. "You two are together?" "Yes," Evelyn replied without hesitation. I made a face that would have made Michael Scott from The Office proud. "Really, Jake? You're the last person I'd expect to judge," Evelyn said, raising an eyebrow. "Believe me, Grandma, it's not what you're thinking," I replied quickly. Later that day, I stepped out of my room and made my way to the living room. Uncle Charlie was sitting on the couch, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Dad was pacing back and forth, muttering something under his breath, something about age difference. I looked at Charlie, then back at Dad. "I'm wondering if I need to start drinking too," I said dryly. "Jake," Dad snapped. "Believe me, Alan, he has a point," Charlie mumbled, taking another sip of whiskey. I walked over to the desk in the living room and pulled open the drawer again, taking out the same photo of Jill. Holding it in one hand, I turned to Dad. "Hey, Dad," I said casually. "What do you prefer, red pill or blue pill?" Dad gave me a weird look. "When did you watch The Matrix? But my choice is the red one," he added with a thoughtful tone. "Always the truth," he said with a faux philosophical air. Charlie murmured from the couch, "He says that, but he keeps taking the blue one." Dad glared at Charlie. I shrugged and added, "I don't fault him. You don't play pool with a rope." One now. Dad turned his glare on me. "Anyway, here, Dad, your red pill," I said, handing him the framed photo of Jill. "Okay, who is she?" Dad asked, staring at the photo. "Jill. Charlie's ex-girlfriend," I replied. "Okay, why am I looking at it?" Dad asked, confused. "Just look at it," Charlie said from the couch. "She's cute. Very tall. Broad shoulders," Dad said, nodding slightly, then his eyes widened in horror. "Holy Mother of God," he screamed. "For welcome to the Matrix," Charlie muttered, sipping his drink without looking up. "To see, Dad," I said, folding my arms. "I told you I need a drink." Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 56, Beyond the Matrix. "Holy, this really is Jill," he said, nearly dropping the photo. Alan kept staring. "So Jill is," "Yep," Charlie confirmed again. And you and Jill used to, Alan began. Every chance we got, Charlie said with a smirk. And Mom is, Alan trailed off. At this very moment, Charlie finished, taking another sip of his drink. Holy Mother of God, Alan screamed again when Charlie leaned back and looked at him. You know what this means, right? That my uncle and my grandma slept with the same dude, I said. 6. Alan and Charlie both turned to stare at me. That my uncle slept with his almost stepsister, and now he slept with his almost stepdad, I continued when their stares only intensified. Are you finished? Charlie asked flatly. Yeah, I said with a sigh. Only got those two. Charlie set his drink down, and said, that means that? I slept with a woman, who wanted to be a man. Or, I slept with a man in a woman's body. Excuse me, could we just table that for now and discuss how this impacts on our mother? Alan asked, clearly trying to regain some sanity. Why? Charlie said, already pouring himself another drink. The damage has been done. All that's left to do now is drink until the part of the brain that creates mental pictures is dead. Hey, what about me? I said, throwing up my hands. I think I'm a liberal in many aspects, but this one is really creepy. One. Charlie looked at me and said, you're the smartest of us, and the one that does therapy. You'll survive. I rolled my eyes. Then oh, I got another one, I added. It's been a while since Grandma had a relationship with someone who's had more surgery than she has. 2. The next morning, I was making my way toward the kitchen, still rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Morning, Berta, I called out casually. Morning, kid, she replied. I stepped in and had barely taken my seat when I heard Berta shout, Gadzooks, from the living room. 1 moment later, Alan and Charlie shuffled into the kitchen, both still groggy. Morning, Alan mumbled. Morning, Charlie said, heading straight for the cafe. So, how was your weekend? Berta asked, glancing at us. Fine, Alan answered. Okay, Charlie muttered. Could be better, I said, slumping into my chair. Nothing exciting happening in your world, Charlie? Berta asked, raising an eyebrow. Like what? Charlie replied. I don't know, Berta said casually. Go to a fun party? See a great movie? Run into an old flame with a new wick? 1. I immediately choked on my drink and spilled some across the table. What are the odds? Berta added. One brother turns them gay, and the other turns them guy. 7. I burst out laughing. Alan and Charlie, who had both been staring at Berta, slowly turned their heads to look at me. What? That one was good, I said with a shrug. 2. If you don't mind, Berta, I'd rather not talk about it, Charlie said, a little annoyed. Okay. I'll fix you something to eat, Berta said as she stood up from her chair. How about a sausage link and a couple eggs, she added with a smirk. 2. Hello. Anybody home? Came Evelyn's voice from the front door. Oh, no, Charlie, Alan, and I said in unison. Charlie, I need to talk to you about your friend, Bill, Evelyn called out as she walked in. I need to study. Nice to see you here, Grandma, I said quickly, grabbing my plate and making my exit. 2. As I turned the corner, I could hear Uncle Charlie mutter under his breath, lucky bastard. 1. Later that afternoon, the 4 of us, Berta, Charlie, Alan, and I, sat silently in the living room, eyes fixed on the scene unfolding outside the window. Evelyn and Bill were talking on the deck. What are you doing here? You finished cleaning hours ago? Alan asked Berta, glancing over. I took a nap in the laundry room so I'd be fresh for the big show, Berta replied without missing a beat. Charlie turned to me with a glint in his eye. Jake, want to hear some curiosity? 1. Sure, I said, leaning in. They, Charlie began suggestively, are made out of Teflon. I made a weird face and muttered, so hit in the nuts still means nothing to him? Charlie chuckled. Okay, I think he's going for it, Alan said, eyes on Bill through the window. We could see them clearly. Evelyn seemed to say what, with a puzzled look, but then, to everyone's surprise, she leaned in and kissed him. Wow, that went surprisingly well, Alan muttered. Damn, Berta added under her breath. But then, Bill kept talking. Wait a minute, what's he doing? Said Charlie. We watched as Evelyn's expression shifted. She pointed at Bill, then turned slightly and pointed toward Uncle Charlie. Charlie gave a brief wave and a weak, awkward smile. Then, to her shock, Evelyn pointed at Bill again, and collapsed, falling back onto the deck like a dropped marionette. There you go, Berta said with a satisfyingly smug tone. She stood up, brushing off her pants. See you tomorrow. Charlie and Dad rushed out onto the deck to help her. The next day, Evelyn sat in the living room with Alan and Charlie on either side. Okay, we'll make a list, Alan said, trying to sound practical. The pros and cons of continuing your relationship with Bill, Mom, he prompted gently. Evelyn crossed her arms thoughtfully. Well, he certainly understands women. Okay, that's a pro, Alan nodded. He used to be a woman, Charlie chimed in. He slept with Charlie when he was a woman, Alan added. Pro. No, wait, con. Definitely con, Charlie corrected himself. What's the score? Evelyn asked. It's about even, Alan said. He's gorgeous. He can afford beachfront property. And he's got a trunk full of fabulous shoes that fit me perfectly. She stood up, smiling. Don't wait up. Mommy's got a date, so no one cares that I'm having breakfast here, I asked, a little indignant. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 57, Jake's Investment Report. It was early in the morning, and the house was still quiet. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, the sunlight spilling across the polished wood. In front of me was the latest report from the Harper Management Fund. It was the end of August. Summer was winding down, and the start of school was just around the corner. And, after months of back and forth, my parents were finally finalizing their divorce. Legally separating. Officially done. Uncle Charlie wandered into the kitchen, still in his pajamas, and headed straight for the coffee maker, as always. Morning, he mumbled. Morning, I replied, still focused on my report. He peered over my shoulder. What are you looking at? Some boobs, he said jokingly, with a lazy grin on his face. Then, glancing at the numbers on the paper, his eyes widened. Wow, that's even better than boobs. Are you sure the amount of zeros is correct? Yeah, I said, rolling my eyes. I have around 16.9 million, you 10.9 million, Grandma 8.9 million, and Dad, 4 million. Yeah, I thought to myself, from the initial 10.7 million, we now have around 40.7 million. An incredible 280% return in just a few months, all thanks to the put options. April was 24 million, I paused for a moment, then added, that's after fees and some taxes, of course. Charlie let out a low whistle. Then, with a furrowed brow, he asked, how come you have much more than me? We started the same. No, that, Uncle Charlie, I said with a smirk, is the eighth wonder of the world. The power of 2/20, especially the 20% performance fee management. Since the S&P 500 has been negative this year, any positive return I make stands out, and I get to charge 20% of that as performance. Not a bad setup, for me. So we're paying you up? Charlie asked, surprised. Yeah, I said casually. Like you tip a waiter in a nightclub, or a dealer in a casino, only in my case, it's millions. I understand, Charlie said, nodding slowly, not caring. Then his eyes lit up with a mischievous glint. But now that I have 10 million, should I buy a boat or a plane? I scoffed. Uncle Charlie, just live like you're living. We don't need those big toys right now. If you want, rent one. In a few years, you might have as many boats as you want. Charlie thought about it for a moment, then shrugged. Okay, smartass, you're my financial advisor after all, and speaking of that, we'd fired Uncle Charlie's old accountant months ago and brought in a well-regarded firm. After cutting some unnecessary spending, Uncle Charlie now had a monthly surplus of around 10 to 20 grand. He could spend even more on women and booze, not that I was going to say that to him, though. Right then, Dad walked in, yawning. Good morning, everyone, he said, stretching his arms. He stepped closer and glanced at the paper in front of me. Holy mother! I didn't know you had that much money, he exclaimed, eyes wide in surprise. I scoffed again. Really? I think Grandma might be the only one I can slightly trust about money. With that much money, Dad said, a little sarcastically, you should be the one paying alimony. I just sighed, looked at Charlie. Charlie raised his cup and said to me, you kill, I hide the body. But then I changed my tone and looked at Dad. But Dad, are you really okay with our arrangement? Dad opened his arms a little and then let them fall to his sides. Yes. I think it's fair. What arrangement? Charlie asked, raising an eyebrow. They're splitting the portion of the fund that belongs to Dad, half and half, I explained. I even offered to contribute a portion of mine, but as Mom said, and I quote, "Jake, that is your money. I will not touch a single penny." Charlie shook his head. I was thinking that Judith was worse than our mother, but I think I was wrong. She just wants to whip your dad. Dad glared at Charlie, not amused. And the second arrangement involves you, Uncle Charlie, I added, turning his way. Charlie raised both eyebrows. Okay, my custody will be flexible, like it is now. I'll live here and there, with no obligation for specific days. So I'll be your care too, Charlie chuckled. I thought it was something serious. You're always welcome here, Jake, he said with a big smile on his face, giving me a pat on the back. Dad smiled too. And same here. I'll continue living here too. Dad seemed to wait for the same warm response I got. But Uncle Charlie only looked at him, narrowed his eyes, said nothing, and went back to sipping his coffee. A slightly awkward silence settled over, the kind that made even the hum of the refrigerator sound louder than usual. Then Berta appeared, stepping into the kitchen. "Morning, boys," she said, giving us all a quick glance. We all responded with a chorus of morning. "So, what's the news?" Berta asked, pouring herself a cup. "Alan finally got divorced," Charlie said. Berta looked at Dad with a smirk. "So he's gonna get whipped." Dad gave her a flat look. Then Dad sighed and turned to Charlie and me. "We need to go to the lawyer at 10, he said. I glanced at the clock, then at Dad, and let out a soft sigh. "Do we really have to go?" I asked. "I already have the 2 agreements I want," I added. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 58, Lawyer Visit. "Yes, Jake, you need to go. She wants to meet you." "Okay," I replied, then raised an eyebrow. "Do you think it's smart to bring Uncle Charlie there?" Charlie looked at me, slightly offended. "Hey, I thought you trusted me." "I trust you most of the time. But not with a Beverly Hills chick," I said, narrowing my eyes. Charlie smirked, but before he could say anything, Dad cut in. "She is a professional lawyer, Jake, too if you say so," I said with a shrug. The 3 of us sat in the lawyer's office, the room sleek and modern, with glass walls and polished furniture. "These divorce lawyers have a good business, don't they?" Uncle Charlie said, leaning back in his chair. "Yet, in the same way locusts have a good business," Dad replied dryly. A paralegal walked in with a tray of coffee. Charlie leaned forward and took a sniff. "Smells good," Uncle Charlie said. "So does the coffee," he added with a grin. Dad looked over at me. I gave him a face that clearly said, "I told you so." "Look, I am paying my attorney by the hour, so just speak when spoken to and otherwise, just shut up," Dad said, clearly annoyed. "If you'd listened to me in the first place, you wouldn't be in this mess." "I'm the one who told you not to marry her," Charlie replied. "You're also the one who told me that if I jumped off the garage roof with a bath towel tied around my neck, I could fly to school," Dad shot back. "And you believed that?" I asked, astonished. Charlie grinned. "The one time you listened to me," Dad turned to me, "let me tell you another thing. If I hadn't married Judith, you wouldn't be born." "I didn't say you couldn't knock her up," Charlie added casually. I raised my eyebrows. "Well, Uncle Charlie has a point, Jake," Dad said, clearly exasperated. Just then, the door opened and the lawyer walked in. "Okay, let's get started," she said professionally. "Wow," Charlie muttered under his breath. "Charlie," Dad warned. "Laura Lang," the lawyer introduced herself, extending her hand. "One Jake Harper," I said, shaking it. "Charlie Harper," Uncle Charlie added smoothly. "Did you used to date Superman?" Uncle Charlie asked, a smirk tugging at his lips. "That's Lana Lang," Laura replied, unamused. "She was Superboy's girlfriend. And guys have been using that tired old line on me since the 5th grade." Did it ever work?" Charlie asked with a hopeful grin. "Let's just get down to business." "Okay," Laura replied, clearly unimpressed. That day, I had also started new guitar and DJ classes. I wanted to expand my repertoire without relying on someone else to play for. When I entered Uncle Charlie's house later that evening, I saw Dad sitting in the armchair with an angry expression on his face. He crossed his arms and muttered, "Yeah, you told me so." "Hey, you didn't even give me time to make my I told you so face," I replied. "That bad?" I added, raising a brow as I made my way toward the kitchen. Dad just let out a deep sigh and sank further into the chair. My books, Pay the Ex-Wife's Dry Cleaning for Life, by Judith's Parents, a Retirement Condo in Boca Raton, for wow, I said just as Uncle Charlie walked in through the front door. And then I saw a Tom and Jerry live action. A few days later, I went down for breakfast and saw Uncle Charlie and Dad already at the table. Are you two talking again? I asked. They both mumbled, but nodded in agreement. Dad, if it's any consolation, Laura Lang won't be able to get hired by even a fifth-rate office after this, I added. What? Dad asked, surprised. Oh, Grandma has more networking than I imagined, I said nonchalantly. You talked to Mom? Charlie asked, astonished. Of course, I said. We can screw each other over, but not let some bimbo do it and get away with it. 3. I leaned back in my chair and changed the subject. Hey, Uncle Charlie, congratulations. You'll be my legal guardian if Mom and Dad die. I will, Charlie said, eyes wide with surprise. I said it first only to irritate Judith, said Ellen. Charlie laughed. That is a good one. Then he paused and frowned. Hey, you don't want me to keep Jake, he said, now annoyed. Charlie, you're not exactly the perfect parental role model, Alan replied sarcastically, but Jake insisted. Yeah, Uncle Charlie, Dad wanted me to stay with some potato farmers. Can you believe it? I added one. They are university professors, Jake, Dad said, exasperated. Really? Grandma said they are potato guys. Either way, I'm not some random kid, I said, folding my arms. I'm worth millions. I don't know them very well, and I don't trust them. Alan shook his head. They are family, Jake. And your Uncle Charlie could find the wrong woman. Dad, Uncle Charlie's been living this life for years, and he still hasn't paid a single alimony and the house is still in his name, I said with a smirk. He's either smart or has divine protection. Charlie raised his cup with a grin. One divine protection, huh? Well, someone up there must like me. Or maybe they just want to keep the comedy going, I murmured. Grandma was not happy with it, though. What is done, is done. That is my final will, Alan said, resigned. Let's just change the subject, shall we? He continued, then turned to me. Jake, tomorrow you'll be starting at your new school. Oh yeah, I said, a little cheerful. I'm not that worried. If it doesn't work out, I'll just change schools again. Alan and Judith equally split both the Harper Fund shares and the money from various bets kept outside the fund, and that's by far the most significant part of the assets. I never really understood that episode. If Alan didn't sign anything, it's not like everything magically became valid just because the lawyer agreed. 7 Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 59, High School. It's been a month since I started high school, and so far, it's been smooth. Now, Dad and I were walking toward the principal's office because of some of my mischievings. As we walked down the hallway, "Hey, Jake," Parker greeted, nodding with a grin, surrounded by his football teammates. A few steps later, "Hello, Jake." "Hi, Emily," I replied, flashing her a charming smile. A few more steps, 2 pretty girls were giggling near the lockers. As I passed by, one of them turned to me. "Hi, Jake, want to hang out this Saturday?" "Hello, Amy," I said, pretending to think for a moment before adding playfully, "That can do." "Saturday, 2 p.m., she nodded and returned to giggling with her friend. By the time we reached the end of the corridor, the same scene had happened several more times. Right before we entered the office, Dad stared at me, stunned. This, he stammered, unable to form a full sentence. I raised an eyebrow. "You need to say more than that, Dad." "I don't understand you," Alan snorted. "You've been here for a month, a month. How are you so popular?" he asked, still confused and incredulous. "What can I say? I'm a delightful person," I said with a shrug. Alan snorted again. Alan started, "If it was just being delightful, I would be super," but before he could finish, I opened the principal's office door. Inside, Principal Franklin was seated at his desk, Mrs. Ridges stood nearby, and Carly sat across from him too. I greeted everyone politely. Principal Franklin looked surprised when he saw me walk in with my dad. "You already came with your dad?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I gave a casual shrug. "He already brought me here anyway," I said, like it was no big deal. I didn't really mind dragging my parents into school matters. Franklin cleared his throat, trying to shift the tone. Have a seat. So, I understand you put some flyers up all over the school, he said, looking at Carly. Before Carly could respond, Franklin handed one of the flyers to my dad. Alan chuckled, until he glanced at Mrs. Ridges and quickly straightened up. Okay, yeah, not funny, he said to me. Carly exhaled. Yes, it was me, she admitted. Alan crossed his arms and said, okay, and how was my son involved? This girl already admitted she did it. Principal Franklin sighed and looked down at some papers on his desk. We have information that it was your son who financed the whole operation, he said. And that he bribed a few students to help distribute the flyers around the school. One Jake, Dad said sternly. I'm just a promoter of creativity and the arts, I replied, putting on a self-righteous tone like I was defending a noble cause, and I just moving the economy hiring people. I added one. Let's come back to the principal culprit, Mrs. Ridges said, turning to Carly. Why would you photodoc my head onto the body of a rhinoceros? Rhinoceros. No, 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 she made you a hippopotamus, Principal Franklin interjected. No, no, she's a rhinoceros. Hippopotamus have wider thighs and a wider snout, Carly corrected. Does it matter? Ridges snapped. And she added, I think I have the right punishment. You know, Carly, I am in charge of the talent show this year. Yeah, you're holding auditions on Saturday. No, you are, responded Professor Ridges. Huh? I will be enjoying my Saturday while you videotape the auditions for me. No. I'm going to see the Cuttlefish play live this Saturday, not anymore. And Jake will help you. Or, come on, I said together with Carly. It's what you get for turning me into a hippopotamus, rhinoceros, Carly and I said in unison. Get out, Ridges yelled. The three of us walked out of the principal's office. Alan gave a small smile. I need to go, son. And nice to meet you, Carly, he waved his hand after one. I gave a casual wave back. Try not to get into trouble, Dad. One. He looked at me weirdly, shook his head, and walked away without another word. Carly stared at me, incredulous. What? I asked. This, she stammered too. Now you just sound like Dad, I said playfully. She finally managed to form a sentence. How come your dad is so okay with this? I gave a shrug. It is just a small prank. The teacher is thin, so we're not even body shaming her. She probably even found it a little funny, I said with a smirk. Then I added, if you knew my uncle, you'd understand. This is the least of my dad's worries. Come on, let's go to class, Carly, she sighed but started walking beside me. She shook her head, still trying to process everything, and mumbled, your family is strange. One. Yup, I replied cheerfully. As Carly took the lead walking down the hallway, I watched her for a moment. It's been a month since I started studying here. That first day was a real surprise, seeing Carly, Sam, and Freddie all in the same class. From what little I watched iCarly, just the first episodes, what happened today would line up with a pilot episode. But now they're already 14 or 15 years old and in 9th grade. And the show didn't even take place in California. The timeline is all messed up too, but well, I don't really have much to complain about. They're a little childish, but they're nice to hang out with. Freddie and Sam's interactions are funny, and Carly is a good girl too. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 60, Grades. As Carly and I turned the corner in the hallway, we spotted a thin, blonde girl pushing around a smaller boy near the lockers. Carly rolled her eyes, marched straight up to the girl, and yanked her by the hair. Hi, Carly greeted with a sharp smile. The girl turned around. Of course it was Sam. Did you get in trouble? Sam asked, casually chewing gum like nothing had happened. Of course I got in trouble. Teachers tend to get upset when you put their heads on the bodies of big, fat animals. I can't believe you talked me into taking the blame for you. You had to. I've already been suspended once this semester. If I'd gotten busted, they would have expelled me, which is truly amazing, I said dryly, considering school started only a month ago. Well, here's an idea, Carly snapped, still annoyed. What? Sam asked. Stop doing bad things. Hey, chillax, Sam replied, completely unfazed. Or, I added with a smirk, you could just stop getting caught. Carly turned to me and gave me a glare that could melt steel. In the classroom, the four of us were seated. Sam sat beside me and behind Freddie. I was behind Carly, who kept glancing forward, probably still annoyed at both of us. I glanced over at Freddie, sitting next to Carly, and couldn't help but remember the ridiculous little dance he did when the seating arrangement was announced. Arms flailing, goofy grin, it was like he had just won the lottery. The teacher walked in and clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. "Students, I'm now going to hand back your tests with your grades," she said firmly. "I hope you all start putting in more effort, unless you want trouble this semester." Somehow, I think she was talking to Sam, even though she only gave her a brief glance. And yes, as strange as it sounds, we've already had some tests, even though it's only been a month since the semester started. There were a few murmurs around the classroom, and some students exchanged glances filled with dread. A couple even slumped lower in their seats, already mourning their grades before the papers even reached their desks. Freddie was the first to be called. He walked back with a smug grin on his face. A, B+, A+, he announced proudly as he sat down. Carly went next. When she returned, she casually stated, A, B+. Sam looked over at me with a determined expression. "Let's beat these smug geniuses," she muttered, shooting a quick glare at Carly and Freddie. Before she could say anything else, her name was called. When she came back, all eyes were on her. "D and all," she mumbled once she looked like a defeated warrior returning from battle. Then it was my turn. I stood up, walked to the front, took my test papers, and headed back to my seat wearing a completely neutral expression. Carly, Freddie, and even Sam turned to look at me, curiosity and anticipation all over their faces. "What?" I said, feigning ignorance. "Oh, come on," Carly said. We all said ours. Without waiting for my permission, she reached over and grabbed my test papers. The moment she saw my grades, she went completely silent, her expression frozen in disbelief. Freddie stood up and leaned over to take a look for himself. His eyes widened as he read the scores. "You had all A+, he shouted, loud enough for half the class to hear. "To what?" Sam shouted even louder, her voice echoing through the classroom. She turned to look at me with a mix of shock and betrayal on her face. Like I had committed some unspeakable act by being good at school. "What, did you think I was dumb?" I asked with a mocking glare. "You're popular, you're funny, how can you be a genius too?" Sam snapped, throwing her hands up in disbelief. I gave her a light pat on the shoulder, flashed the smuggest smile I could manage, and said, "I'm just built different, for I really want to hit your face right now." Sam muttered, "One even I want to do that," Carly added, crossing her arms. "Sam, take your seat," the teacher called sternly. Then she turned to me with a small smile. "And congratulations, Jake. Perfect scores across the board." "Well done." There were more murmurs across the room. I leaned back in my chair, letting the praise settle for a moment. Well, I thought, it's going to be even more hilarious when they find out my real age too. So far, only the teacher knew. And judging by how no one even questioned it, I guess I blended in well enough. Then, I looked at Freddie. "You're not even a late bloomer," I thought, giving him a look of quiet pity. Freddie misinterpreted my look entirely. He straightened up, puffed out his chest like a determined anime protagonist, and declared, "Well, I'm going to do better than you next time." After class, as we walked out, Sam was still eyeing me like I'd betrayed her. "We were supposed to be bros," she whined. "It was us against those two nerds," she pointed dramatically at Carly and Freddie. "But you're just a big nerd too." Not wanting to make your mood worse, Sam, Carly said, "But you and I get to spend our entire Saturday here, videotaping kids' auditions for the talent show?" Sam groaned loudly, dragging her feet like she was already being punished. "And why are you smiking, Jake?" Carly asked, narrowing her eyes. "You're coming too. Remember, you're under the same punishment, one whatever." "I'll just bring Amy with me," I said, like it was no big deal. "You really want me to punch your face today, don't you?" Sam snapped, glaring at me. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 61, Talent Show. Amy and I stepped into the school's theater room, the doors creaking slightly as we pushed them open. The space was dimly lit. They were about to head toward the front row when they noticed Carly pacing off to the side, holding her phone to her ear. "I told you the front door would be locked. You gotta go round to the blue door at the back of the—" "Oh my God," Carly suddenly shouted, eyes wide in surprise. "What do you think of my equipment?" Freddie said proudly, standing nearby with a setup that looked more suited for a film set than a school event. Carly blinked. "I just asked to borrow your video camera." "What is all this?" "Well, that's a free ship IDF camcorder with a hyper-cardio and condenser microphone, mounted on a carbon fiber tripod with a low-drive fluid head," Freddie said, beaming. "I also brought you juice and a bagel." "Hey man, you really went all in," I said, giving the camera a curious once-over. "Where the hell did you get all this?" "That's some expensive gear." "It is," Freddie said quickly, holding his hands up in a gesture of caution. "Please be extra careful." Meanwhile, Amy greeted Carly and Freddie with a warm smile. "Hey guys," she said casually, giving them both a small wave after watching the camera talk unfold. She moved over to check out the equipment as well, earning the same careful instructions from Freddie, who acted like he was guarding national treasure. While Amy was busy, I walked up to Carly. "You really turned this into a date, huh?" she said, half in disbelief, half playfully. "Nothing compared to showing up with your #1 admirer," I replied, glancing at Freddie. "Who brought a whole Hollywood set, and a bagel?" Carly chuckled, shaking her head. Just then, Sam walked in holding a cup of coffee. She spotted Freddie first. "Hey. You invited the doof," she said, pointing dramatically. Then her eyes landed on Amy beside me. "And you really brought a girl," she added, now glaring at me. "Oh, man. I didn't know that was gonna be here," Freddie blurted out. "She. I'm a she, Freddie." "As in girl," Sam snapped. "Man, she's the reason we're here," I said to Freddie, gesturing toward Sam. "And Sam, obviously Freddie would be here. Someone needs to record, and that someone is definitely not me." Freddie and Sam just stared at me for a moment, both of them completely silent. Then, after a beat, Freddie turned right back to Sam and repeated, "Just keep your hands off my AV equipment." "You mean I can't play with the white balance on your Super do party camcorder?" Sam asked with a mocking grin. "Oh sure. Everybody jokes about the white balance until their skin tones go magenta," Freddie shot back, clearly offended. "Carly will never love you," Sam declared. "That's it. I'm taking my stuff and I'm going home," Freddie huffed. "Please stay," Carly said gently. "Okay," Freddie replied without hesitation. I face-bombed, letting out a long sigh. It's like watching a younger version of my dad, I thought. At least Carly is a gentle girl. Amy came closer and whispered to me, "This is a little painful to watch." "Yeah, you tell me," I replied with a sigh, then added with a smirk, "Come on, let's take those seats in the back." She gave me the same smirk back. Carly clapped her hands. "All right. Let's get this started. Jeb, are you ready to audition?" A nervous-looking boy stepped up onto the stage. "Yeah, I will be performing a scene from the French play called L'Homme Femme," Sam squinted. "Okay," Carly blinked. "We don't know what that means, but knock us out." Rolling, Freddie confirmed from behind the camera. Jeb took a dramatic breath and launched into his monologue. But, where did she go? I don't know. But when will she be back? I don't know. But where can I find her? I tell you, I do not know." Verlaz, he finished with a flourish. "Nice job," Sam said. Wow, Carly added. Eventually, the auditions wrapped up, and Carly stood to stretch while Sam slumped dramatically in her seat. I walked over to the front where they were sitting. "Great auditions," I said with a grin. Carly and Sam both looked at me like they wanted to throw something. "You didn't watch any, did you?" Carly asked, narrowing her eyes. "They were horrible," Sam added, flopping sideways in her chair like she was physically wounded by the performances. "No, I watched the one with the trumpet and the pogo stick," I said. "After that Saturday, a few days passed. Unfortunately, since the internet wasn't well developed yet, the idea of iCarly never took off, for now. But at least, Carly and Sam ended up winning the talent show. Thanks to Freddie's recording of their hilarious commentary during the auditions, the school voted them the most entertaining act, even though they never technically performed on stage. The moment the school projected their reactions on the big screen during the final assembly, the auditorium erupted with laughter. Sam's deadpan sarcasm and Carly's earnest attempts to keep it professional made for an unexpected comedy duo. Even Freddie, though initially sulky about not getting proper camera credit, basked in the praise for his recording skills. From then on, People started greeting the trio with grins in the hallways. A few more weeks passed. Sam and Freddie continued their usual bickering, with Carly constantly playing the role of peacemaker, and me? I was usually the one egging them on. Thanksgiving was just around the corner. One support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Thanksgiving. Hey, what are you doing? Dad asked as we stepped into Charlie's room. Picking out a shirt, Charlie replied, looking up in front of the mirror. That one looks nice, Dad offered, nodding toward a white button-down. Uncle Charlie glanced at him. You like it? Yeah, then, no. I flopped onto Charlie's bed, arms behind my head, listening to them go back and forth. Okay, listen, Dad continued, I was wondering, do you have any plans for Thanksgiving, Alan? I don't plan that far ahead. It's this Thursday, Dad said with a deadpan tone. Charlie blinked. No kidding. Didn't we just get through that whole pumpkin, the costume thing with the kid, Halloween? Yeah, said Uncle Charlie. 3 weeks ago, I said, incredulous. Then I suddenly shot up from the bed with a small yelp. What? Both Dad and Charlie asked at the same time. I just remembered this is Uncle Charlie's bed, I said, brushing off my clothes like I'd just stepped in something gross. Charlie glared at me, then turned back to the mirror. Berta changed the sheets yesterday? That one looks good, I said, nodding toward the blue button-down shirt. Uncle Charlie glanced at me. You like it? Yeah, I said. Then, okay, Charlie replied. Dad looked at us both, incredulous and offended. So, who's the one? I asked, ignoring Dad's stare. Her name is Lisa, Charlie said. Lisa who used to live here? Lisa, Dad asked, raising an eyebrow. She lived here, she moved out, she lived here, I moved out. At one point, neither one of us lived here. Yeah, that Lisa, Charlie said. Wow, Dad replied. So, she's gonna take you back again, Dad added. Hey, who said she's the one who broke up with? Charlie started, then paused. Yeah, I'm hoping. Good luck, Dad and I said in unison. Thanks, Charlie nodded. As Uncle Charlie was heading out of the room, Dad looked over at me and said, and I didn't even get to tell him the plans for Thanksgiving. I just shrugged. That afternoon, while Dad and I were watching TV in the living room, Uncle Charlie burst through the door carrying a massive frozen turkey. Change of plans, he announced proudly. We're gonna have a big family dinner right here, Charlie declared. And whose big family were you planning on inviting? Dad asked, raising an eyebrow. You know, you, me, Jake, Mom, turkey, just like the good old days, Charlie said while giving the turkey a light slap. What good old days? Dad replied. It's just an expression, don't get hung up on it, Charlie waved him off. I can help you, Uncle Charlie, I offered. But you're the one who has to convince Mom and my grandparents to come here, Charlie nodded and added, oh, and Lisa might come. Okay, what's going on? Dad asked, turning off the TV. I need to show Lisa that I'm a family guy, Charlie said. But you're not, Dad said. As a matter of fact, that's not the point, Charlie replied. She's about to go off and marry some Dirk, just because he loves her and wants to settle down. I get it, you're Satan, Dad said flatly. Alan, this is serious. I could lose her forever. Wow, and you care? I love her, Alan. She's the only one I ever thought I might eventually wind up with, Dad repeated, unimpressed. I'm touched. Yeah, Uncle Charlie, I gotta agree with Dad, I added, pulling a face. You're gonna need more than eventually wind up with to win her back. Look, I really care for Lisa. And she needs to believe I'm capable of changing, Charlie said. But the thing is, you're not, Dad replied. You don't know that. I might be, Charlie countered. Who knows what would happen if I actually tried? You're really serious about this? Said Dad, a little impressed. Will help, I said, but I don't think our family is the most appropriate if the goal is to impress her. Later that afternoon, I was in the kitchen having a snack when Uncle Charlie was explaining his idea to Berta. So, here's the plan, he said to Berta, who was already raising an eyebrow. You're cooking Thanksgiving lunch? No way in hell. Are you insane? What's wrong with you? Berta shot back immediately. Come on, Charlie pleaded. I don't work holidays, Charlie, please, I've got a life, you know, pretty, please. My brother is in the witness protection program, and I've been invited to spend Thanksgiving with him at an undisclosed location. I'll give you $1,000, done. Charlie looked over at me with a satisfied grin on his face. 5. I raised my glass and said, all hail the money. 5. The next day, Thanksgiving had finally arrived. The doorbell rang, and I got up to answer it. I opened the door and saw a beautiful blonde woman standing there with a warm smile on her face. Hi, you must be Jake, she said cheerfully. Yes I am. Jake Harper, I replied, offering my hand. Lisa Geller, she said as she took it too. I bent slightly, intending to kiss her hand to be gentlemanly, but I froze mid-motion. Geller, I asked, blinking. Yeah, any problem? Lisa asked with a puzzled expression. No, I just thought of something, I said quickly, letting go of her hand. As Lisa walked past me toward Uncle Charlie, I quietly pulled out my phone and dialed Monica. Hello, Monica answered. Hey Monica, Jake here. Quick question. Do you have a relative named Lisa Geller? Yeah, Monica replied, sounding a bit confused. Lisa Cassie Geller, my cousin, like your age, as beautiful as you, but blonde, I asked. One yes. Oh, you little charmer, Monica said, clearly flattered by the comparison. You're not gonna believe it, I said, glancing back toward Lisa and Charlie. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 63, Thanksgiving II. Wait, Monica said on the phone, and I could hear her calling out in the background. We're in position, Chandler's voice chimed in. Hi Jake, added Rachel warmly. I stepped into the hallway to avoid being overheard. Here's the thing, I said. Uncle Charlie's ex-lover is here. She's engaged. And he wants to prove he's better. That he's a family man, but he's not, Rachel replied with the same level of confidence my dad did. Wait a minute, Lisa is engaged, I heard Monica's voice cut in. Ross, did you know that Lisa is engaged? Monica asked, clearly outraged. Yeah, it'll be in a month. I got the invitation, Ross replied casually. What? I didn't get invited, Monica screamed, even more outraged. Did you hear that, Jake? Chandler said, amused. Oh yeah, it's getting messier, I said with a smirk. Jake, I could hear Monica's voice getting closer through the phone. Go there and make sure your Uncle Charlie wins. Then I heard her murmur, and get me an invitation. Monica, I'm not there, but I'm pretty sure everyone is glaring at you, I said. Jake, I don't think you should interfere in an engagement, Rachel said too. Yet, Rach, I love you, but I don't think you have much moral to talk about this, I added with a condescending tone too. Why you looking at me, Rach? He kinda has a point, Monica chimed in. Okay, it is starting, I said, settling in. Then I heard Charlie introducing my grandparents. You, I let out. What? Came multiple voices over the phone. Uncle Charlie just introduced my grandparents with the wrong names, and the fact that they live here in California. Oh, now my grandparents just bluntly said they still consider my dad as their son. Mom was not happy with that. I walked to the kitchen and I let out again. What now? Came multiple voices over the phone again. Our housekeeper just bluntly said to Lisa, don't tell me you're back here again. Don't you ever learn? And Lisa, showing her ring, said, as a matter of fact, I think I have. Then Berta added, good for you. You can do so much better. It was possible to hear a wave of murmurs ripple through the phone. Oh, now this one is gold, I whispered into the phone. Uncle Charlie and Lisa went to greet Grandma, and he said, you remember Lisa, right? Then she replied, no, I don't. I'm sorry. Hello, dear. My son has had so many little roommates, and she finished with, I just hope you've got better taste than the one who picked out his hideous furniture, too, and it was Lisa who picked everything here. That's double kill from Grandma, I added. One. There were some laughs, followed by Ross saying, wow, that hurts, Monica, I can see your schadenfreude a smile from here, I said. You are right, Chandler commented, after I could hear him said ouch. Oh God, I murmured. Come on Jake, we need details, Rachel said eagerly. Uncle Charlie has a kind of stalker. She's a little eccentric. She just came climbing onto the deck, introduced herself to Lisa, and said, "Don't worry. Charlie and I had sex once, but now we're just friends." I could hear people winced in the phone. I returned to the living room. "Okay, now it becomes even messier," I muttered. My grandma on my dad's side just said, "The lesbians of my generation were too scared to come out of the closet." The thing is, Mom didn't tell her parents about her change of taste, I said, doing a Michael Scott's grimace face. Wow. You are really living a sitcom comedy, right, Dot? I knew you were too good to be real, Chandler commented. I would say the same for you, Chandler. But I'm not hearing much laughter from your part, I said playfully. One, you just killed Chandler, you know. I could hear a new voice, Phoebe. He threw himself to the ground clutching his chest, pretending to be dead, Phoebe said while chuckling. Oh, it is lunchtime, I said. Just put it on speaker, Monica replied. Everyone was already seated at the table. I placed the phone beside my plate so the others could hear the chaos unfolding live from my end. Here it is, Berta said as she placed a large roasted turkey on the table. Berta, nice-looking bird. Thanks for blowing off your family and cooking for ours, she added sarcastically when no one commented. Thank you, Berta. It looks delicious, I said, trying to smooth it over, also noticing the look Lisa gave Charlie. So, can we say what we're thankful for? I asked, looking around the table. Me, I got one, Rose said, raising her hand too. She started, I'm thankful for the food we eat, and thankful for the friends we meet. Then it becomes weird. I'm thankful for my comfy seat. I'm thankful for the birdie's feed, and she started to sing, completely off-key, white with foam, God bless America, pull up, Rose, Charlie said with an unamused tone. Sorry, Rose mumbled. I just facepalmed and shook my head. I then leaned slightly toward my phone and murmured, when I have a girlfriend, I will never bring her here to meet my family, I said through gritted teeth. Dad cleared his throat and said, okay, I'm next. I'm thankful that I can spend the holiday with all the people I love, and all the people who love me. He paused before adding, and Judith. I gave a deadpan look. Oh yeah, it was just a matter of time before my dad created an awkward moment. To be fair, the moment was already pretty awkward anyway. 3. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 64, Thanksgiving I. And then, the thankfulness took a turn. I groaned and whispered, here we go again, while watching my grandma seated next to me. I'm thankful I'll be dead someday, and you'll all feel horrible you weren't nicer to me, Evelyn declared dramatically. And I'm thankful that our daughter gave us at least one grandchild before she, Lenore said, looking at me, before bursting into tears. Grandpa Sheldon consoled her too. Judith, not missing a beat, chimed in, I'm thankful I finally found a therapist who has no compunction about prescribing powerful sedatives. Uncle Charlie was looking at me like he was silently saying, fix it. I looked back, mouthing, how, you're smart, his eyes seemed to insist. Yeah, but in this case, you need to be a god, I thought, giving him a look. Finally, I shrugged and muttered under my breath, I told you our family was not a good one to impress. Or, at least, not a good impression. I leaned toward the phone on speaker and heard Chandler say, Jake, my parents would be a great addition to your Thanksgiving table, too. I chuckled, remembering that episode, his mom saying his dad would rather sleep with a houseboy than with her. Berta chimed in next, deadpan as always. I'm thankful I can sit here and listen to you rich people whine while my family's scrabbling for a corn dog at the Pomona Fairgrounds. Charlie? Jake, Lisa said softly. No, you first, Charlie replied. I just nodded, giving her space to go ahead. I'm thankful for you, Charlie, Lisa began, her voice warm. And I hope you'll always be my friend. Okay, well, I'm thankful for you, too, Charlie replied. He looked around the table. And I'm thankful for everybody coming together today as unwitting participants in my desperate charade. I cleared my throat and finally spoke. I'm thankful that, despite all the past grievances and mistakes, we can sit here together as a family. We throw jabs and all, but family is still family, I said, trying to guilt trip one. But then, everyone heard Joey's voice on the phone speaker. Well said, little man. Mom turned toward me, narrowing her eyes. Are you recording us? No, I said quickly. Grandma Evelyn squinted. Are there other people on the other side of the line? No, I tried, but seeing it wasn't working, I added, oh, come on, at least I'm the child here. One amen, said Rose. We all looked to her. I murmured, I'm thankful for Rose, who can say anything despite all the awkward situations. After the meal, I stood up and glanced around. I actually wrote a song for today. Lisa, could you stay at least long enough to hear it? Lisa nodded, smiling softly. Everyone stood and followed me into the living room while I took my place at the piano. I started to sing, Say Something, A Great Big World. 1. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I am feeling so small. It was over my head. I know nothing at all and I will stumble and fall. I'm still learning to love, just starting to crawl. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I will swallow my pride. You're the one that I love and I'm saying goodbye. As the last note faded, Uncle Charlie turned to Lisa and said, Lisa, marry me. Marry you? You want me to marry you? She asked, astonished. Yes, Charlie replied. You know, eventually. 3. And for the second time that day, I made a Michael Scott face. Eventually, I screamed in my mind too. Charlie turned to Lisa again. You sure you don't want some turkey for the road? No, I'm fine, Lisa said. So, are you gonna invite me to your wedding? Charlie asked. Charlie, Lisa replied, sounding both amused and exasperated. From the phone speaker, Monica's voice cut in. Yeah, right. Not even I was invited. Mon, get over it, Ross chimed in. Easy for you to say, you got invited. And she didn't even go to your wedding in London, Monica snapped. Charlie continued saying goodbye to Lisa at the door. Will you at least call me when you get divorced? You'll be first on my list, Lisa replied with a smirk. That's the end, guys, I said while walking out to the deck. I turned off speaker mode on the phone and set it back to normal. Wow, I might not take Thanksgiving that much now, said Chandler. You're welcome for my family dysfunction, I added a little sarcastically. Well, at least Ross now has another funny story to tell at Lisa's wedding, I added. Monica, on the other hand, Monica groaned through the phone. And we lost our chance to make Jake part of our family, AWW, I said sweetly, then shifted to mock drama. Wait, I thought you already considered me your nephew, Aunt Monica. You heard me, the rest of the group laughed. How come you never call me that? And Monica already has been, Rachel asked, a little annoyed. Well, I thought you wouldn't like it. Because of my age, I said, then added playfully, even though you're almost, THR, now, nah. That's gonna take years, Rachel cut in quickly. What years? That will be in 6 months, Ross added, matter-of-factly. I could see Rachel shoot Ross a nasty look. I leaned forward, deadpan. Ross, you having 2 marriages really is a surprise. 3. Everyone burst out laughing, except Ross. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 65, Investments. Charlie had sulked for a few days after what happened with Lisa. It was the kind of quiet, moody withdrawal that didn't need to be explained. He didn't talk much at lunch, didn't make his usual dumb jokes, and avoided eye contact more than usual. But after a few nights of drinking and a rotating cast of women coming and going, Charlie was back to normal. Now, with only 1 week left until Christmas, I found myself buried in spreadsheets and reports. I was wrapping up the annual review for the Harper Fund Management. The numbers this year were unbelievable. The total return was nearly 5 times the original investment. $22.7 million for me, $14 million for Charlie, $11.5 million for Grandma, and $2.6 million each for Mom and Dad. $53.4 million total. I had already sold everything. All the positions were closed. The money was sitting there, clean and ready. Now it was time to think about next year. Acclaim Entertainment, AKLM, the maker of video games for Nintendo and Sega, and Hollywood Entertainment, HLYW, a video rental chain. Both delivered returns over 10 times the original investment. 2 other positions like Nvidia and Booking didn't bring in explosive results like those 2, but they were solid and safe bets. I opened a new page in my notebook. At the top, I wrote, how to make more money next year. The first item on the list, books won it first. The thought of writing came to mind. I remembered stories like Percy Jackson and Hunger Games. But the truth was, I had no idea how to write them. Maybe it was better to find the authors instead. Help them. Fund them. A publisher one, yeah. That was something I could do. Let someone else write them, but let me be the one who profits. I marked an X next to books. The next item, movies. First up, Paranormal Activity. One of the most profitable films ever made, and maybe the easiest to replicate. Freddie could handle the filming. He already had more equipment than some indie studios. Sam and Carly could play. I'd just have to make sure the tone stayed focused on horror, not parody. We'd still need a few more people, some adults, a couple of kids to round out the cast. I marked a star next to Paranormal Activity. This one had real potential. Then came the second idea, Saw. This would be a lot harder. Especially because of the content. The violence. The twisted psychology. I couldn't be upfront like I could with Paranormal Activity. But I could fund it. Be a shadow investor. Let someone else carry the creative weight while I backed it financially. If it worked, if it hit like it did originally, it could mean a massive return, especially because of sequel power. I underlined Saw twice. Then wrote beside it, find the right people. The third one, My Big Fat Greek Wedding one, I didn't even know if it had already been written yet. But if it had, I had to buy it. Joey could play the protagonist, if he was good enough, one and probably the best one, The Conjuring Universe 3. Then I made a new section beneath the movie plans. There were more options to explore. Waiting, 2005, God's Not Dead, 2014, High School Musical, 2006, Insidious, 2011, Intouchables, 2012, The King's Speech, 2010, The Purge, 2013, Slumdog Millionaire, 2008, and Black Swan, 2010. 6. The third section, games. For now, I couldn't remember any game from 2001 that would be both easy and highly profitable to recreate or back. Let's put this section on hold, for now. The fourth section, opportunities. 3 names came to mind immediately, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube too. The question was simple, should I be a seed investor, or try to do it myself? The second option would require highly qualified people. Developers. Engineers. Designers. A real team. For now, I still had time to think about it. These weren't decisions to rush. Let's put this section on hold too. When I have more capital, and more reach, it'll be easier to act on them. At least I bought a domain names tied to them like Facebook, Facebook, FB, Facebook, and then, the most defining moment of 2001, September 11th, 2. I don't think it's worth trying to make money off it. I remember some of the theories, like the unusually high volume of shorts in airline stocks just before the attacks. There was even an FBI investigation into it, though it didn't go anywhere. 1. It's not something I want to touch. Not for money. 1. I don't think it would be possible to stop it either, not without sounding insane or putting myself at serious risk. At least I will make sure that the people I love are not there. 1. The next morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my notebook still open when Charlie walked in. Good morning, he said, rubbing his eyes and yawning as he made a beeline to the coffee pot. I looked up and closed the notebook. Hey, Uncle Charlie, I need a favor, I said. Charlie raised an eyebrow. That's usually my line, I grinned. Yeah, well, I want to throw an end-of-year party for my grade. So I need the house, and help with the setup. Do I have any choice? Charlie asked, clearly unsure how to respond. No. You owe me too many favors, I said with a smirk. And I need you to be the cool uncle. Because Dad, I got it, Charlie interrupted. He smiled and took a sip of his coffee. At least I'll get to meet the new girls hanging around you, he added playfully too. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 66, Party Reveal. The bell rang, ending the first class of the day. Students started filing out, chattering about assignments and weekend plans. I turned in my seat, catching Carly, Sam, and Freddie's attention. Hey, I said, slinging my backpack over one shoulder. I've got something to tell you. Carly just looked at me curiously, tilting her head slightly, waiting. Way better than anything from this morning, I continued with a grin. Sam raised an eyebrow. Does it involve food, chaos, or both? Both. And way more than that, I said, letting the suspense hang in the air for a second. My Uncle Charlie is letting me throw an end-of-year party. His house. Big space. Real food. Music. Freddie's eyes widened. Wait, you're throwing a party at your uncle's beach house? I nodded. That's the one. Sam leaned in. Is there gonna be a chocolate fountain? I looked at her, deadpan. Really, Sam? I'm throwing an incredible party and your standard is a chocolate fountain. Sam shrugged. Hey, priorities. They all looked at each other, then back at me. Completely serious, I added. So, Ewan. 3 grins answered me before I even got a reply. So, I continued, want to come to my house tomorrow? Help brainstorm how to make the party next level. To be fair, I added with a smirk, I mostly want Carly's opinion. I'm thinking of inviting Regina from Class B2, 3. Hey, both Freddie and Sam said at the same time, offended. I couldn't help but laugh at their identical reactions. I don't want a Willy Wonka party, I said, shooting a look at Sam. And Freddie, you're better with record stuff. I was going to ask you to film the party, but nothing too professional. Just bring a regular camcorder. Freddie looked mildly insulted but nodded. Fine, but I'm still adjusting the audio levels. I have standards. Deal, I said. The 4 of us were walking down the hallway when we spotted Regina approaching from the other end. I gave it casual, hey, she smiled back, wearing the same playful grin. Hey, one. Carly just rolled her eyes. I turned to Regina. I need your help, Regina. I'm throwing a party this weekend, an end-of-year celebration, and I want your input on the planning. Regina tilted her head. Who are you inviting? Everyone from my class, and a few from the other classes, I said. I'll help, she replied, but only if you let me handle the rest of the guest list. I leaned closer and whispered, you can't ban the pretty ones. Deal, she said with a wink. The next day, the 5 of us split into 2 taxis and headed to Uncle Charlie's house. With that many people, squeezing into one cab just wasn't an option. When we arrived, the beach house looked like a postcard, bright sunshine, ocean breeze, and the faint call of seagulls in the distance. We stepped inside to find Charlie lounging on the sofa, smoothie in hand. Hey, kid, he said lazily. Then he noticed the group behind me. Whoa. What is this, a band audition? Uncle Charlie, I said, gesturing behind me. This is Carly, Sam, Freddie, and Regina. Guys, meet my Uncle Charlie. Charlie gave them his signature crooked grin. Welcome to Harper's house. Sam looked around, clearly impressed. You actually live here? This place is insane. Regina gave an approving nod, her eyes scanning the layout. Yeah, this place is going to make one awesome party, she murmured. I motioned toward the kitchen. Come on, everyone, that way. Charlie leaned in close to me and whispered playfully, hey, big dog. Which one are you planning to use the deck with? I rolled my eyes. No one, for now, I replied with a grin. I gave them the full tour, showing off the sleek kitchen, the wide deck we reformed, and made it wider than the original, and the private path that led directly to the beach. When we finished, we headed to my room. I had picked the second best one in the house. Still big, with its own bathroom, though, to be fair, every room here had that. What really sold me was the little extra room on the side, almost like a private lounge. And most importantly, it wasn't right under Charlie's bedroom. That alone was a win. As the others stepped inside, Regina casually dropped herself onto the bed without any hesitation. Nice bedroom, she said, glancing around. Pretty clean and organized. Sam, with no sense of personal space whatsoever, immediately began snooping around the room. She checked out the shelves, opened a few drawers, then stopped when she spotted a guitar, an acoustic, and a DJ table all lined up in the corner. I didn't know you played instruments, she said, half impressed, half nosy. Carly chimed in, arms crossed with a knowing smile. Sam, Jake told us he takes guitar, electric guitar, and electronics lessons every week. I shrugged. Oh yeah, we've known each other for 4 months now, but you've never actually seen me sing. Regina's eyes lit up with curiosity. You could sing for us now. I smiled but shook my head. I will sing at a party. No way, come on, we're already here, Carly chimed in. Yeah, and we can judge if you're any good, so you don't embarrass yourself at the party, Sam added with a grin. I rolled my eyes at Sam's comment. Okay, I said, clapping my hands once. Let's go to the deck. Thankfully, it's not cold outside, even though it's December. One, everyone perked up and followed me out of the room. Before I left, I grabbed my guitar. As I walked through the living room, Charlie glanced up from his smoothie and gave me a knowing smile. I just shook my head and kept walking, the sound of the sliding doors opening letting in the salty breeze and the soft rush of waves outside. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 67, Sunset Notes. Regina, Carly, and Sam each took a regular beach chair, lined up loosely in a row. Freddie was already standing, holding his handheld camcorder, carefully adjusting his position to capture everything. I grabbed my guitar and sat on the edge of the deck bench, facing them, my back to the ocean. I gave the strings a light strum, just to feel the tone, then looked at them with a half smile. "What kind of music do you want me to sing?" "A romantic one," said Regina, without missing a beat. I raised an eyebrow, then gave a quick nod. "All right. Let's see what I can do." I adjusted the guitar in my lap, took a slow breath, and started with a soft, mellow chord progression. Then I began to sing. "Girls Like You, Maroon 5, 4 spent 24 hours, I need more hours with you. You spent a weekend getting even. We spent the late nights making things right between us, but now it's all good. Babe, roll that backwood, babe, and play me close, cause girls like you run round with the guys like me till sundown. When I come through I need a girl like you. Yeah yeah, girls like you love fun and, yeah, me too. What I want when I come through I need a girl like you. Yeah yeah." As soon as I started, I noticed Carly, Sam, and Regina begin to sway slightly in their seats. It wasn't full-on dancing, but their arms moved gently to the rhythm, hands lifting in slow arcs, fingers catching the beat like it was instinct. They were already caught in the song. Yeah yeah yeah, yeah yeah yeah, I need a girl like you. Yeah 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 yeah, yeah yeah yeah, I need a girl like you. I spent last night on the last flight to you. Yeah, took a whole day up trying to get way up. We spent the daylight trying to make things right between us, but now it's all good. Babe, roll that backwood, babe, and play me close. Yeah. When I played the final chord, I let it ring out, fading slowly with a breeze. The three girls clapped immediately, still smiling from the rhythm. Carly, Sam, and Regina all looked at each other and then back at me with wide grins. Freddie lowered the camcorder, also smiling, for different reason. "Got everything?" I gave a slight bow, still seated, and chuckled. Regina leaned forward with a playful glare. "How come you never told me you were that good?" She crossed her arms and smirked. "This totally makes up for your complete lack of sports skills." I just rolled my eyes. Freddie, having been my friend for a while, knew exactly what that meant. We were both the kind of guys who usually got picked last for any team. "I only know how to play soccer. I'm not good at anything else, nor do I have the desire to improve at it," Freddie added. "You should have joined the auditions that day." Sam didn't miss a beat. "He was busy that day," she said sarcastically, shooting me a teasing look. "You bet I was," I teased back, not even trying to hide my grin. Meanwhile, in the living room, my dad and Uncle Charlie were casually watching the scene unfold from the window. "Wow, Jake really is popular," said Dad, still a little impressed. One Uncle Charlie, watching with the subtle pride of a cool uncle, gave a knowing smirk. "And a good lineup too. 3-2. And the kid with the camera looks more like you, Alan." "So it's 3-1, 2. Dad turned to him, giving a look of pure disapproval, clearly offended. Uncle Charlie just sipped his drink, satisfied. "1, come on, sing another one," Carly encouraged, receiving a chorus of agreement from the other two. I raised a hand with a grin. "First, let's decide about a party," Sam quickly chimed in. "Chocolate fountain," I scoffed. "I will rent a chocolate fountain. I'll even rent a small one with Sam written on it just for you." Sam jumped at me with a grin. "Best friend ever." "I thought that was me," Carly said, smiling, though she didn't really mind the comment. Sam glanced at Carly, then back at me, correcting herself with a playful grin. "Best male friend ever," I smirked. Should I expect a similar comment from Freddie? Carly, Freddie, and Sam all said no at the same time, with Freddie and Sam a bit more emphatic. I just laughed. Carly added, "We need some games, maybe some quiz." "First," I said, looking over at Regina, "how many people did you invite?" "From my class, there are 16, Regina smiled. "With me, it'll be 50, so 66 in total," I said, doing the math. 3 less than half from everyone else, I murmured in my head, not letting it show on my face. Regina raised a finger. Now it's my turn, before we decide anything else. What's the budget for the party? I raised an eyebrow. I didn't think about that. Money wasn't really a problem for this kind of small party. How about 10 grand? Won $10,000, Carly, Freddie, and Sam screamed. Even Regina looked astonished. Then Regina's eyes lit up. With that kind of money, we can throw an amazing party. Later that week, despite all the chaos, my party actually happened. Everything went perfectly. Incredible enough, the setup was grand, lights on the deck, music playing just right, tables full of snacks, 2 chocolates fountains, one with Sam written on it, and even a quiz game Carly had put together that people enjoyed. But like in Vegas, what happened at Jake's party, stayed at Jake's party. I wasn't really inspired to write a full party scene, that is why the lame end, so I left it open-ended. 6 I might even use it later. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 68, The Call. I called Missy. She was way too young, but somehow she really knew how to gossip. So, you're saying Sheldon became popular because he lends his room to other students? I asked, laughing. And he's totally clueless about what they do in there, Missy replied, laughing with me. I'm more concerned that you know what they're doing, I said, raising an eyebrow. Hey, we're almost the same age, she snapped defensively. You know if Sheldon ever finds out, he's going to burn that room down, right? 1. We both laughed. Then the house phone rang. Missy, I gotta go. Someone's calling the house, I said. All right. Talk later, she replied. I picked up the receiver. Hello, a woman was crying on the other end. Calm down, I can't understand you. More sobs. Then something that sounded like Hamlet. What does Hamlet have to do with this? No. I said, I'm late. I'm late, but I already had a pretty good idea. And then she explained. I yelled, Uncle Charlie? A moment later, Uncle Charlie and Dad came into the living room. Charlie looked at me. What? I held out the phone to him. A call for you. Who is it? Charlie asked. A hysterical woman, I answered. Charlie backed away with his hands raised. I don't take calls from hysterical women. This one you might want to take. She's late, Charlie squinted. She's late for what? I gave him the look. Charlie blinked. Oh boy, he cautiously took the phone and put it to his ear. Hello. Okay, are you sure? Don't yell. He paused, trying to keep up. How did this happen? Scratch that. Okay. Just stay calm, I'm here for you. We'll deal with this together. You didn't happen to catch her name, did you? Charlie asked. I shook my head. Okay, the instructions sound pretty clear. A longer pause. You pee on the stick, and if it turns blue, it means you're pregnant. Charlie's expression twisted. The stick turns blue? Yes, sweetheart. First go into the bathroom. He lowered the phone slightly and muttered, not exactly a rocket scientist. Dad, standing nearby, crossed his arms and said sarcastically, as opposed to the Nobel Prize winners you usually bring home, now we wait 30 seconds, Charlie said. Please, God? Please, God, please, he muttered. Isn't it a little late for prayer, Charlie? Alan asked. Hey, don't mock my faith. Charlie turned slightly, still on the phone. Yeah, I'm here. Did it change colors? A pause. No? That's good, right? 1. He turned to us slowly, phone still in hand. Sure, in a strange way. I'm a little disappointed. 2. Then his eyes lit up. Hold on a sec. Yes, Charlie suddenly started dancing and striking dramatic poses. He even pulled me into a hug. Still holding the phone, Charlie grinned and said, So, what else is new? Hey, congratulations. When's the wedding? Dad and I looked at him, completely bewildered. Charlie wrapped up the call, still smiling. Isn't that nice? Best of luck. Bye-bye. The next morning. Good morning, Charlie said, walking into the kitchen. Good morning, darling, Evelyn replied with a smile. Morning, Charlie, Alan added. Morning, Uncle Charlie, I said. Evelyn turned, eyeing him playfully. So, Charlie, what's wrong with your pee-pee? Charlie froze. What, Grandma, we're still eating here, I whined. Why no one care about my breakfast? A little birdie told me you were in a urologist's office yesterday. He shot Alan a glare. Thanks a lot, Tweety. I didn't say anything. Alan protested. Coincidentally, Evelyn continued, your doctor has a suite in the same building as Dr. Shankman. You know, the man responsible for 1 out of 3 tight tushies in Beverly Hills. Charlie squinted. So Dr. Shankman saw me and told you? No, dear, you left your appointment card on the table. I only mentioned Dr. Shankman because, well, no one has noticed my new tushy. Alan blinked. Very nice, Mom, Evelyn beamed. Of course. It's a Shankman, so, Charles, she went on, back to your PP. Oh yeah, there goes my appetite, I muttered. Charlie sighed. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just getting a vasectomy, Evelyn gasped. You must really hate me, Charlie blinked. Are we changing the subject now? Evelyn stepped closer. How can you have a vasectomy without consulting me? You're selfishly robbing me of grandchildren. You've got grandchildren, Alan said flatly. Oh, big hoop. 1, 2 hey, I yelped, slightly offended. Charlie rolled his eyes. If it makes you feel any better, I'm doing the freezing thing. Evelyn tilted her head. Really? Well, I suppose that's better than nothing, she added with a smirk. You know, I'm doing a freezing thing too. Alan blinked. What? Excuse me, Charlie echoed. Evelyn grinned. At death, I plan to have my head removed and frozen until such time it can be revived and put on a monkey body. Charlie stared. What? Grandma shrugged. Everybody's doing it. That night Charlie was on the deck, nursing a glass of whiskey and staring at the ocean. I stepped out and sat beside him. Rough day? I asked. I've had worse, he muttered. We sat quietly for a bit. The waves crashed gently below us. I glanced over. You know, I think you'd make a cool dad, Uncle Charlie. He looked at me, surprised, then smiled. Thanks, Jake. That actually means a lot. A slightly scumbag dad, though, I added casually when Charlie smiled and shook his head. I grinned and leaned back, looking up at the stars. I thought about everything that happened. Uncle Charlie had tried to freeze his sperm, but nothing worked. And just when he was ready to go through with the vasectomy, the doctor bailed because his wife was going into labor. So in the end, Charlie gave up. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Looking for a CEO. Grandma was again in Uncle Charlie's house. She was looking at the money in the fund at the end of 2000, her $11.5 million, with a very large grin. You really are the best thing that ever happened in my life, sweetheart, she said to me one wow, high praise, I thought. I had never seen Grandma praise anyone like that. But then again, no one had ever given her $11.5 million in a year, without her needing to do any work. Charlie and Dad said in unison, thanks, Mom. Grandma looked exasperated at both of them. If you two only gave me half the pride, I'd already be satisfied. Thanks again, Mom, they both replied. Hey Grandma, I have other ideas. And those ideas require a company, I said. Jake, you're 13, Dad said, surprised 3 yet, that's why I need someone to do it. Grandma, I need a very capable CEO. 2 things matter most, capable and trustworthy. I paused for a second, then added, initially, I was thinking about getting into the movie business. There's a lot of money to be made, and I already have a few script ideas. But that's just the beginning. I want a company flexible enough to invest in different areas. Few times had I seen Grandma with such a serious expression. She looked at me for a moment and then nodded. I have a few options, she said. And I need to make some calls. The next morning, Grandma was back. Oh, Mom is back, Charlie said, glaring at me. Grandma just rolled her eyes. Then she looked at me and said, I have 3 names. None of them will be easy to convince. Jarrett and Davis are directors at Comcast. Virginia used to be a director at Warner. She might be the easiest one to reach, since she's currently available, but which one is the best? I asked. Grandma took a breath. Jared is the most strategic, very connected. Davis is a bulldog, great at execution. Virginia, she's the youngest, and with the least experience. But she's sharp, understands creative industries, and, most importantly, she's the one I would trust the most. I nodded. Then let's start with Virginia. 3. That afternoon, Grandma and I went to meet Virginia at a quiet cafe in Beverly Hills. The place was classy but low profile, perfect for serious conversations. Virginia was already there when we arrived, dressed in a professional but modern outfit, sipping a cappuccino while scanning something on her tablet too. I was freezing. My brain was screaming, "That's Pepper Potts from Iron Man." She looked up as we approached, offering a firm but polite smile. "Evelyn Harper. And this must be Jake Harper. Pleasure to meet you," I said mechanically. Grandma greeted her with a warm smile. "Virginia, dear, Evelyn, just call me Pepper," she replied, smiling. I got used to the nickname. Grandma raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Well, it does suit you." I was hyperventilating a little. I thought, what the hell is going on? Now there's Marvel here? What am I supposed to do if Thanos shows up? Tell him a joke? Ask Uncle Charlie to sleep with his daughter? Get Dad to lecture him? For do you, by any chance, know Tony Stark? I asked bluntly. Out nowhere Pepper looked surprised but answered, "Tony Stark? I don't know anyone with that name." She paused for a second. "Wait, is he the Iron Man or something like that? I remember seeing my nephew reading a Marvel comic about him. But he's not very well known." Grandma looked at me weirdly. "Sorry, I just wanted to know how wide your knowledge is. Or how you'd respond to a weird question," I said, trying to diffuse the awkwardness when the three of us sat down for coffee. I cleared my throat. "I'll get straight to the point. I want to create a company, and I want you to be its CEO. We'll start with movies." "And why would I do that?" she asked seriously. "I will give you 10% of the company. Grandma gets 5%. Harper Fund 10%. And I will keep 75%. I paused. "That would be the best deal of your life?" I know it's hard to believe coming from a 13-year-old. But it is what it is. "I want half. And I want to know more about your ideas," said Pepper too. I shook my head. "The split is non-negotiable. I'm already being very generous with the 10%. Then I raised my hand, holding her gaze. 5 years. In 5 years, your share will be worth at least $1 billion, Pepper laughed. "You do dream big." She leaned forward slightly. "You know that I need more than that." I looked at Grandma, and she nodded. I took a folder from my backpack and slid it across the table to Pepper. It was a detailed report on the Harper Management Fund, our year-end performance and our total assets under management. She raised an eyebrow and began reading, her expression slowly shifting from amused to intrigued. She said, incredulous, "You people put a 13-year-old in charge of a $50 million fund? And this obscene return, all is doing," Grandma finally said. "Hey Pepper, give it a shot," I said. "1 year is all I ask." Pepper began tapping her fingers on the table, murmuring, "I was planning to take this year off. 1 year. I give you 1 year. If you don't impress me, I'm out. And I'll even return half of my promised share," she said firmly. "And I want in on the fund too." "Okay. You can enter with your own money," I replied. 7. I didn't want to drag the negotiation. "So, let's put to the sitcom logic to support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 70, Deal Signed. The following week, Pepper arrived at the Harper residence with a sleek black folder in hand. She wore a navy blazer over a crisp blouse and looked every bit the executive she was about to become. We gathered in the living room. Grandma had a proud glint in her eyes, while Dad and Uncle Charlie tried to look like they understood what was happening. Pepper placed the folder on the table. "Here's the draft contract. I've already added some clauses for accountability, and one about fund participation. Nothing too aggressive, just making sure everyone has skin in the game." Grandma picked it up first, scanning it with interest. I leaned back on the couch, arms crossed, watching. "I like her," Grandma said after a moment. Dad glanced over. "Mom, you were the one who introduced her, and I really have good taste," Grandma replied with a satisfied smile. Charlie raised a brow. "She's also not bad to look at," he said with a charming smile on his face. "Too, Charlie," Grandma snapped, but Pepper just chuckled. I've dealt with worse, she said. Way worse? I looked up and added, oh yeah, add one more clause. If you end up in a relationship with my uncle, you're prohibited from any future retaliation, and will include a hefty penalty clause to make sure of it. Charlie looked annoyed. Jake, what, uncle? I'll learn from history. To his right, both Dad and Grandma said at the same time. Grandma sighed and added, about relationships, too bad I don't have a good son to marry you, Mom. Now Charlie and Dad said together, offended. Pepper just laughed again, clearly enjoying the chaos that came with the Harper household. Then she turned to me, shifting back to business. So, how much are you putting in initially to launch the company? $1 million, I said without hesitation. I had basically $1.2 million in the bank, outside the fund. Pepper raised her eyebrows, not impressed. Don't worry, Pepper, the year's almost over, I added with a smirk. January is a great month for funding. She looked at me, now more intrigued. That will be your first job. What do you know about bet? I asked, my expression sharpening into something like a grin. The rest of the Harper family exchanged knowing looks. The next day, Pepper showed up again. We sat at the kitchen table, and she handed me a sheet of paper. This is the amount we can potentially make from the bets you proposed, she said. I looked down and blinked. Wow, $110 million after tax. She had structured a detailed plan, multiple bets spread across the playoffs and the Super Bowl, involving various sports books across the US and even international betting houses, especially in Europe. The core idea was like placing $7.5 million on a combined bet with roughly 20-to-1 odds, average. Many bets weren't correlated, so even if one game went wrong, we wouldn't lose everything. We'll be using multiple accounts and identities to avoid detection. All illegal, of course, clearly using some kind of loophole, she added, calm and methodical. Where are we getting the $7.5 million from? I asked. She smiled. We'll use a loan, with the fund's capital as collateral. She then added, with a dry tone, wouldn't it be easier to just buy a lottery ticket? I understood her. It was a huge gamble. But I just smiled. Please, ask me that again on January 28th, after the game. I leaned back and added, oh, and get us VIP box seats for the final, will you? She gave me a side glance, still skeptical. Now, about our first movie project, I continued. It's called Paranormal Activity. She raised an eyebrow, curious. We don't need much capital, I explained. We use regular actors, a decent horror director, and shoot the whole thing in a single house. I was thinking, maybe my mom's place. It has the perfect look for a haunted story. Pepper finally smiled. Low risk, high tension. I like it. Overhearing just the last part, Charlie chimed in with a beer in hand. With your mother there, you just need your dad back and you've got a horror movie already. I rolled my eyes. That afternoon, I called Carly, Sam, and Freddie and invited them over to hang out. We settled in the backyard with some sodas and snacks, and I told them I wanted their help with something. Okay, hear me out, I said. We're going to make a horror movie. It's called Paranormal Activity. They all looked at me, surprised. Like, a real movie? Carly asked. Yes. With real cameras, real distribution. And I want you guys to be involved, either acting, helping behind the scenes, or both. Carly was already smiling. I'm in. This sounds fun, Sam shrugged. If I get to throw stuff around and scream like an idiot, count me in. But it was Freddie who looked the most excited. He leaned forward, eyes bright. I'll bring my equipment. I've got some ideas for lighting and camera angles, I grinned. Perfect. I also have some ideas for how we'll move the camera, then I added, but before anything else, we'll need to sign contracts. Since we're minors, we'll need our legal guardians to represent and authorize everything. They nodded seriously, understanding it was more than just a fun project. I'll pay each of you $2,000, I added. I think we can finish everything in 1 or 2 weeks. You're paying us $2,000, the three of them shouted at once. I just smiled. If everything goes like the original, $2,000 will just be pocket money. I can't wait to see their reactions when I hand them the real check. I'll make a different start. Waking up in a completely white space, a floating soul mumbled to itself, oh no. A pure white void? That's never a good sign. This is red flag for crap novel. After wandering aimlessly for what felt like hours, but could have been minutes or days, who knows, a figure finally appeared. Alright, let's see. What do we usually get in this kind of scenario? God with a beard? Morgan Freeman? Aqua? But no. What the hell are you doing here, Saitama? The soul screamed, pointing at the bald, blank-faced man standing in front of him. The man, who looked suspiciously like Saitama from One Punch Man, said in the same deadpan voice, "I'm here to tell you about your reincarnation process." Great. So, do I get 3 wishes? Some kind of gacha pull? Cheat system? No, Saitama replied calmly. But I do have some discount tickets for the grocery store. The soul glared. This is a scam. Don't worry, Saitama added. I will grant you one thing, no one will notice you acting different. Before the soul could complain, everything turned dark. Jake opened his eyes. Bua, bua, he cried, you effing scam. Of course no one's gonna notice I'm acting different. I was reborn as a baby. 3. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 71, the movie. We began filming that same weekend. Freddy showed up early, hauling a couple of cameras, tripods, and lights like it was Christmas morning, and that was 2 days ago. He was practically bouncing with excitement. Okay, I've mapped out the best lighting spots, he said, unrolling a sketch of my mom's house. We'll start with the bedroom scenes, lights best there in the afternoon. Then we can do the hallway takes when it gets darker. Carly and Sam arrived not long after. Carly had already printed out the shooting script, highlighted and annotated. Sam, of course, brought 2 duffel bags full of props, including a pair of plastic skulls and a toy bat. This one screams when you press the eye, she said proudly. We're keeping it, I facepalmed. Sam, we are doing a real horror movie. The hired director, Paul, mid-30s, grungy hoodie, and full of indie spirit, was already setting up near the dining room. He had worked on a few smaller projects before. Let's get sound rolling and go for a test shot, he said, adjusting his headset. Carly would play the daughter, and Sam was cast as Diane Mercer, the internet girl. Freddy, now fully in his element, managed the technical side, constantly tweaking lighting angles and camera positioning. How do you want the camera movement in the night scenes? He asked me and the director. I can set up the auto pan. Exactly that, I nodded. Slow pan, side to side. Nothing too sudden, let the tension build in silence. The director just nodded, he already knew my vision. The living room, now filled with cables and lighting stands, looked nothing like it did 3 days ago. Judith came into view just as we were running a rehearsal take. Her arms were crossed. Her eye twitched. Are we really filming a horror movie in our house? She asked, her voice tight with disbelief. Yes, Mom, I said. Pepper, seated on the couch with a coffee in hand, looked skeptical. Later, I went over to talk to her privately. Don't worry, Pepper. If this doesn't work, we do it again with a new crew. I like my friends, but I'm not going to throw away a $200 million movie potential. She gave me a long look, then simply nodded. The camera started rolling. After weeks of intense work, it was already late January. School had started again, and the movie was done. Wrapped. Filmed. Edited. In the post-production, Pepper turned into the devil herself. She drove the editing crew like a general at war, demanding cuts, revisions, pacing, audio corrections. She was terrifying, but effective. Now, we were all gathered at Uncle Charlie's house, in front of the biggest TV on the market. Charlie had insisted on that part. Everyone was there, Pepper, Carly, Sam, Freddy, Spencer, Alan, Judith, Charlie, and Evelyn. The lights were off, popcorn bowls filled, and the remote control in my hand. Time to watch what we had made. Halfway through the movie, chaos reigned. Dad had already screamed like a little girl, twice. Spencer somehow turned it into a competition, complete with exaggerated gasps and dramatic clutches to the armrest. Freddy, Carly, and Sam were huddled together on the couch. Carly had her hands over her mouth, Freddy was holding onto both of them, and Sam, trying to act like she wasn't fazed, was clearly failing. Only Pepper remained neutral, arms crossed, eyes locked around. To see everyone's reaction, Charlie leaned in from his recliner. This is, actually terrifying, told you, I muttered with a grin. When the movie finally ended, silence fell across the room. Freddy broke it first. Did we really do this movie? He asked, eyes still wide. I just smiled. "Yeah," I said. "We really did." Evelyn exhaled slowly and muttered, "I'm too old for this." Pepper, still calm and composed, gave a slow nod, her eyes calculating. This one can actually work. I leaned back, thinking to myself. Maybe my opinion is biased, but the movie's better than the original. That doesn't mean it'll have the same success, of course. "It was not that scary," Dad said, trying to form a smile. "Alan, you screamed Mammy 2 times, and she's right next to you," Uncle Charlie replied, deadpan too. "Yet, I think it was okay," Sam added. "Sam, you let Freddie hug you for half the movie," I pointed out too. Sam's eyes widened for a second, then she promptly kicked Freddie off the couch. "Traitor," Freddie muttered from the floor. "Maybe I need a new house," Mom murmured. Dad shuddered at those words, fresh chills running down his spine. We were all still recovering from the adrenaline when I looked around the room. There were no more jokes for a minute, just quiet awe. Whatever happened next, this movie had already done something amazing. And it was only the beginning. Pepper stood up, smoothing her blazer. "All right, everyone. This was good. But I have work to do." She gave me a quick nod before heading toward the door. "Let's talk tomorrow, Jake." "We've got a lot to prepare," I nodded back. Then, to break the tension, I asked, "So, what's for dinner?" While we were having dinner, Carly spoke with a wide smile. "I still can't believe we'll be in the theater." "Yeah, and Sam will have an even scarier reputation at school," I added. "Nice," said Sam with a smile. I leaned forward a bit. "I'm going to rent a few theaters for the premiere. Feel free to invite whoever you want. I don't know if I want my mom to see it," said Freddie, grimacing too. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr. Up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 72, Super Bowl. Terrence came up to me. "Thanks, bro. I can't believe I'm actually going to watch the Super Bowl at the stadium." Terrence was 1.80 meters tall and weighed 130 kilos. A giant, even among the 12th graders. And yet, he was in our grade, 9th, though not in our class, 6th. He's not exactly the brightest mind, to say the least. But he's someone I can actually talk to about football, American football, to be clear, and he really knows his stuff. "How's it been, being the linebacker for our school?" I asked. "It's been awesome, man. The upperclassmen are cool too," he said with a big grin. "Nice," I thought to myself, "you're like a giant bear. No sane person would pick a fight with that." "Hey, I gotta go. The detention, I told you that wasn't necessary. Now, it's all good, bro," he said and walked off. He got in trouble 2 months ago. He saw 2 boys were talking trash about me. He beat them to pulp. I never asked him to do that, and I didn't give him anything before or after. He just said, "That's what friends do." That was it. So yeah, when the tickets for the Super Bowl came in and I saw I had a whole VIP suite to myself, I didn't even hesitate. I sent him a message right away. "Wanna join me in the stadium box?" He sent back 15 messages, 45 misspelled words, and something about bringing hot dogs. That's Terrence. But I knew he'd be grinning the whole game. And honestly, I was happy to have him there. A little while later, I ran into Carly, Sam, and Freddie in the hallway between classes. We greeted each other like usual. I glanced at Carly and Freddie. "Are you sure you don't want to come?" Freddie shrugged. "My mom thinks football is too violent. She doesn't even let me watch it sometimes." Sam, already wearing a NY Giants jersey and smirking, looked at him mockingly. "Oh, you, mama's boy." "I'm not a mama's boy," Freddie snapped. "You kinda are," Sam teased. "You want me to call her and ask permission right now, don't you dare." And just like that, they started bickering again. I turned to Carly. "Are you sure you don't want to come? If it's about the money, after Paranormal Activity is released, you can pay me back." Carly looked a bit conflicted. She murmured, "I'm watching with my brother, he can come too," I said with a shrug. "Spencer's a funny guy, too." That made her smile. I could tell she was seriously thinking about it now. Then I turned to Sam, raising an eyebrow. "You chose the Giants," she crossed her arms proudly. "Born to win, baby," Freddie groaned. "You only picked them because the uniforms are blue, and because they're gonna crush it. Unlike your delicate little feelings," she grinned. "Here we go again." I just shook my head and kept walking. And Sam, you're wrong, I thought. Because they will be destroyed. A few days later, we were all on the plane. Everyone was there, me, Charlie, Alan, Terrence, Sam, Parker, our school's quarterback, currently in 11th grade, and easily the most popular guy there, Regina, Cher Horowitz, Regina's frenemy, Pepper, Grandpa on my mom's side, Carly, Spencer, and Freddie too. Carly had ended up saying yes. She said it was too good to pass up. Freddie was easier to convince. Once Carly agreed, he didn't want to be left out. The real challenge was convincing his mom. But somehow, we did it. Regina offered to pay for her and her friend's share, but I told her it wasn't necessary. She smiled and said, in that case, she'd make sure we got to talk to one of the Ravens players. Her dad seems pretty well connected. I was sitting next to Pepper. She leaned closer and said, we're preparing to shoot the 2 movies you picked. I already bought the scripts for Brokeback Mountain and My Big Fat Greek Wedding. The first one might stir some controversy with the public, though. I nodded, listening carefully. Pepper got me a bunch of scripts from the Writers Guild and the third one, Lost in Translation, they're working off your draft. Maybe we'll be ready by March or April, she added. That was faster than I expected. And exactly what I needed to hear. Pepper continued, and Paranormal Activity, if we don't take it to any festivals, we could release it by late March. But I'll need a few favors in return to make that happen. Do whatever you think is best, I said. I don't know much about that side of things. I glanced at her with a smirk. You're all in, Pepper smirked back. I'd be all in even if you didn't impress me. I don't do half-assed work, she leaned in slightly. But winning $42.5 million in a month, $50 million minus the $7.5 million loan, and having another $60 million in the pot today, yeah, that gave me a bit more incentive. Yet, we already cashed out $50 million after tax. And there are still more to come. When I smiled and shrugged. If I go wrong in this game, and all the movies go wrong, we still have around $15 million to play with. And that's assuming we pay off the loan right now, Pepper murmured, with my 10%, $1.5 million is basically my salary for an entire year when I was a Warner director. And something tells me these movies won't go wrong. Then, I heard 2 voices bickering from a few seats ahead. Obviously, Sam and Freddie. I sighed. Who the hell let those 2 sit together? 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 73, Super Bowl II. After the flight, everyone headed straight to the hotel. We were all a bit tired from the trip, but the energy was still high with the Super Bowl just around the corner. As we stepped into the lobby, Cher looked around with a casual glance and said, "Oh, I remember this hotel. It is a nice one, exactly what you'd expect from a Beverly Hills princess." The place really was nice, though. Polished marble floors, stiff and tailored uniforms, and that faint, expensive scent that lingers in luxury places. Everyone began checking in, grabbing their key cards. Terrence, Parker, and Spencer looked around like they had just walked into a palace. Terrence turned to me wide-eyed and whispered, "Are you sure we can stay here?" I just grinned. "Positive, big guy. Just don't break anything." "We're good." Then I turned to the group. "It's 11 o'clock now. Lunch will be at 12:30 here, for anyone who wants to join. We're heading out for the Super Bowl at 5:30 p.m., so feel free to do whatever you want until then." After a quick shower, I headed back downstairs and made my way to the hotel bar. Charlie, Alan, and Spencer were already there, drinks in hand and looking way too comfortable in those lounge chairs. A few minutes later, Freddie and Sam came in behind me, still bickering about something I didn't even want to understand. "Let's talk about girls," Sam said suddenly, like she was calling for a classic bro talk. Charlie raised an eyebrow. "Now this should be good." Then he leaned in toward me and whispered, "Is she?" I shook my head. "Not really. She likes boys." Alan, trying to jump into the gossip, chimed in, "Those 2 seem like your typical popular girls," clearly referring to Regina and Cher. "The queen bees," Charlie added one then, with a smirk to Alan, he said, "That reminds me of our school queen bees." "You're kidding." "With Carly, they're the most popular girls in our grade," Freddie said. "Hey, don't forget our little Sam here," I added with a grin. "That would make 4." This tomboyish girl has a lot of admirers. Sam gave me a playful punch in the arm. Ow, don't put me together with him. That just feels creepy, you know. Charlie chuckled and looked at me. So you kissed too, and the other two are friends. Wait, you kissed Cher? Freddie asked, incredulous. Charlie leaned back, smirking. Why do you think he switched seats with Alan on the plane after a while? Clearly Alan has zero chances with Pepper. Thank you, Charlie, Alan said, unamused. Then Spencer spoke up, narrowing his eyes at me. What about my sister? Did you kiss her too? He asked, trying to sound like the protective brother. Nah, we're good friends, I said, unfazed. So anyone kissed her? Spencer asked again. I wish, Freddie murmured. Without hesitation, Sam stood up and kicked Freddie in the shin under the table. Ow. What was that for? Freddie yelped, grabbing his leg. Charlie leaned closer to me and murmured, are these two? Not, I said, then paused with a smirk. For now, 12. After a while, everyone came downstairs. We all headed together to the hotel restaurant. It was funny seeing the diversity of food on the table. Pepper, Cher, and Regina were eating the fancy stuff, the kind that comes in tiny, artsy portions. Pepper had a glass of wine in hand, looking completely at home. Cher and Regina looked like they wanted one too, but Pepper immediately shut that idea down with a firm shake of her head. Meanwhile, Spencer, Parker, Terrence, and Sam were definitely the ogre types, plates stacked with food like they were preparing for winter. From burgers and ribs to a mountain of fries, their part of the table looked like a medieval feast compared to the delicate plating on the other side too. Carly and Freddie asked for the same as me, Kobe beef with potatoes, after I told them how good it was. Carly took a bite and said with wide eyes, this beef is so good. Freddie nodded in agreement with his mouth full. This is insane. I think I'm gonna dream about this steak tonight. I just smiled, leaning back in my chair, watching the odd yet perfect group of people around me. Somehow, this chaotic group had turned into something like a family, even if I've known some of them for less than 5 months. And about this afternoon, what are you all thinking of doing? I asked, looking around the table. Cher, sitting 2 seats away, turned to Regina and they said in sync, shopping. I just rolled my eyes. Then I looked at Freddie and Carly. Want to do some sightseeing? I've never been to Tampa before. Carly exchanged a look with Freddie, then smiled. That actually sounds fun. I'm in, Freddie added quickly. Way better than following those two into a boutique war zone. All right then, I said, standing up. Let's go be tourists for a couple of hours. Me, Sam, Carly, Freddie and Spencer ended up heading out together to explore Tampa. Terrence and Parker stayed behind, fully absorbed in the hotel lounge's pre-game coverage, which included a replay of the previous year's Super Bowl. I just shook my head watching them. Those 2-foot maniacs, I muttered to Grandpa was off with Dad, doing their own thing, probably something that involved stubborn opinions and decaf coffee. Charlie was nowhere to be seen, as usual. And Pepper, ever the responsible one, decided to act as the supervising adult for Cher and Regina. Surprisingly, the 2 girls didn't mind at all. In fact, they seemed delighted. Pepper wasn't just a chaperone, she was like a queen bee with actual power and poise, and they were more than happy to buzz around her. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 74, Super Bowl III. By 5:30 p.m., everyone had gathered back at the hotel. The lobby buzzed with energy, our group slowly reuniting after their own afternoon adventures. People were dressed in jerseys, team scarves, or whatever merch they had picked up since arriving in Tampa. I looked around and started the roll call. Terrence and Parker wore matching Ravens gear and were still talking about the pre-game breakdown they had watched. Grandpa and Dad were already arguing over who had the better quarterback. Regina and Cher were hyped up, probably more for the attention than the game, but even they seemed genuinely excited. Pepper stood nearby, checking her watch like the executive she was, but I caught her smiling. Charlie was the only one missing. Just as I was about to call him, he walked through the hotel entrance, sunglasses on, shirt half buttoned, and a beautiful blonde clinging to his arm. You're late, I said, raising an eyebrow. Fashionably late, he replied with a grin. The blonde gave a polite smile and waved to everyone. No one questioned it. It was Charlie, after all. "Everyone ready?" I asked, looking around the circle. They answered with cheers, fist pumps, and one very enthusiastic nacho-themed foam finger from Spencer. Pepper had rented a private shuttle for the ride to the stadium. As we piled in, the mood was full-on celebration. Sam and Spencer kept trying to out-chant each other with team slogans. Carly and Freddie sat close, sharing laughs. 7:30 minutes before kickoff, we arrived at Raymond James Stadium. The energy outside was electric, waves of fans in team colors, music blasting, the smell of food and fireworks already in the air. Security moved us through quickly thanks to our VIP credentials. Once inside, we followed a private corridor that led us straight to our suite. The moment we stepped in, jaws dropped. Floor-to-ceiling windows gave us a perfect view of the field. Plush seating and a table filled with food, sliders, wings, sushi, nachos, desserts, it had everything. Terrence looked like he might cry. This is heaven." I turned to Terrence, Sam, and Parker, who were hovering near the buffet already. "It's all you can eat. Knock yourselves out." Terrence walked up to me with a grin. "Bro, this is the best day of my life." "Thanks, man, you're welcome. Just enjoy the show," I said, a smile on my face. People scattered around the suite, picking their spots. Then Cher came over to me, a playful smirk on her lips. "Want to watch together?" "One I thought you preferred to watch with Regina," I replied, matching her smirk. A few minutes later, I was seated in the back row of the suite, with Cher on one side and Charlie on the other. Charlie leaned in, gave me a look, and bumped his fist with mine. "So we're going with blondes today," he said with a smile. I just chuckled, shaking my head, but didn't say a word. By the end of the second quarter, the Ravens were leading 10-0. The tension in the stadium was rising, but the energy in our suite was electric. One and the lights dimmed. Halftime show. When Britney Spears appeared on stage, the girls in our group absolutely lost it. Regina and Cher screamed louder than anyone in the row. And I had to admit, I was impressed too. Britney was in the peak of her beauty and presence, commanding the stage like no one else. This was way before her downfall. "Wow," I murmured, unable to look away. "You're not the only one thinking that," Charlie said, raising his brows while watching the performance. After the third quarter, the score was already 24-7. The Ravens were just a few minutes away from being crowned champions. Somewhere in the middle of that excitement, Cher leaned in and convinced me to do something other than watch the game. I didn't protest. Charlie and his blonde companion were nowhere to be seen. While Cher and I were kissing near the back of the suite, Terrence suddenly burst into the room with a shout. "We're champions, men," he yelled, then froze as soon as he saw us. One like a true bro, he stopped mid-celebration and gave a quiet nod of understanding before slowly backing away. A moment later, Regina approached and let out a very pointed cough. We ignored it. Then she coughed again, this time louder and much more theatrical. Still nothing. "Come on, you two," she said, separating us with her hands. "Hey, Regina," I said with a smile. "Did we win?" I asked like nothing happened. "You are impossible, Jake," she said, smiling back and shaking her head. Seemed like the kissing time was over, for now. I got up, gave Cher a wink, and went to celebrate the victory with the rest of the gang. After screaming champions, with the boys, I made my way toward Pepper. "How do you feel winning $6 million in a game, Pepper?" I asked, referring to her share of the win. "For unfucking believable," said Pepper. It was the first time I had ever heard her swear. And honestly, it kind of made sense. She quickly regained her composure, then looked at me and said, "Jake, I will go ahead first." "You go back the same way." "Why?" I asked. "I have a lot of work to do." "You just won $6 million and want to work now," I said, incredulous. "It's not about money for me anymore," she replied. I nodded with a knowing look and murmured, "One hell of a CEO grandma found," while watching Pepper walk away. Then I made my way over to Sam, Carly, and Freddie. Carly gave me a teasing look and said, "Do you even know the final score, Jake?" "Not really," I said without any shame. We all laughed. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 75, The Day After. I was sitting in Carly's living room, sipping a soda and talking about everything except the Super Bowl. Her place was cozy, warm lighting, tidy shelves, and Spencer's usual bizarre artwork scattered everywhere. Carly sat across from me on the couch, legs crossed, a smirk dancing on her lips after one of my jokes. "You and Cher?" she asked, obviously fishing for gossip. "Just good friends," I replied with a grin. Before she could press further, the front door swung open unexpectedly. "Is Sam here?" Freddie called as he stepped inside, glancing around. Carly and I exchanged a look. "No." "Why?" Carly asked. "Because I pulled a prank on her," Freddie said nonchalantly. Carly blinked. "You pulled a prank on Sam?" "Oh," Freddie confirmed. "What, are you tired of living?" "Why would you mess with Sam?" Carly asked, clearly horrified. "Because she put a dead fish in my locker," he replied flatly. Freddie held up his backpack. "Smell this." "No." "Gross," I said immediately. "I don't want to smell your fishy backpack either," Carly added, cringing. "What prank did you pull on Sam?" I asked, genuinely curious now. Suddenly, there was a loud pounding at the door. "Open the door," Sam shouted. "Call the police," Freddie muttered in panic. "Open this door, Freddie," Sam yelled again. "Leave me alone, Sam," Freddie shouted back. "We're even," he added, hopefully. "Come here, Benson," Sam's voice echoed from the hallway. Then, with a loud crash, the door burst open and she stormed in. Carly looked at Freddie, raising an eyebrow. "You handcuffed her to Gibby," I burst out laughing. "Freddie, you're insane," I said between laughs. "She put a dead fish in my locker," Freddie defended himself. Sam looked ready to explode. "Gibby is way worse than a dead fish, right on cue," Gibby proudly declared. "My mom thinks I'm awesome." "5 Just give me the key," Sam growled. The next 5 minutes were pure chaos, running, dodging, yelling, and one broken lamp. After a frenzied game of tag, Gibby was finally freed and sprinted out the door like his life depended on it. Sam and Freddie, however, were still arguing like nothing had been settled. "Come on, you put a dead fish in my locker," Freddie said. "And I handcuffed you to Gibby. We're even, yay," Carly said, trying to lighten the mood. "Who wants lemonade?" "I don't play to get even," Sam said, stepping closer. "Mama plays to win," she pointed at Freddie. "I'm gonna get you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But I'm gonna get you." "I'm not scared," Freddie replied, clearly terrified. The next day, I walked into school, still smiling from all the chaos at Carly's. As I turned the corner into the main hallway, I spotted Freddie standing next to one of the teachers. The teacher had a hand on Freddie's shoulder and said, in a tone meant to be reassuring, "There's nothing wrong with not having kissed anyone yet." "Say it, I am Freddie Benson, and I have never kissed a girl." A beat of silence. Then the hallway erupted with laughter. Freddie turned bright red. I almost dropped my backpack. I murmured under my breath, "What the hell is going on? What does this idiot teacher think he's doing?" I tried to stay calm then I spotted Terrence down the hall. "Terrence," I called. He turned with a grin. "Jake, intimidation mode, on. Let's go." Terrence started walking toward us, and with him, 3 other guys from the football team, all upperclassmen. Big, loud, and loyal. Without needing an explanation, they followed his lead when we approached Freddie. Terrence started cracking one fist into the other, looking like he was about to knock someone out. The other 3 mirrored him, arms crossed, stone-faced. The hallway fell completely silent. I stepped beside Freddie and put a hand on his shoulder. "Come on, Freddie. Let's go to class." Carly was beside him and came along too. We turned and walked together, the others flanking us like bodyguards. The crowd moved out of the way, and no one laughed again. When we reached the classroom, I stopped at the door, looked at Carly and Freddie, and asked in a low voice, "Who did this?" Freddie didn't answer right away. Carly glanced around the room, her jaw tightening. Then Sam walked in. I didn't need a confession. By the look on their faces, I knew. Freddie, Carly, even Sam herself couldn't hide it. I ran a hand down my face with a long exhale. "Of course," I muttered, ruffling my own hair in frustration. Then I turned and walked toward Sam. "We need to talk, Sam," I said quietly, eyes locked on hers. "Jake," Carly began, trying to diffuse the tension. "Not now, Carly," I said, without looking back. Sam and I walked outside, heading to a quiet corner near the back of the school. She folded her arms. "All right, what's up?" I took a deep breath. "What the hell were you thinking, Sam? Publicly humiliating Freddie like that?" She looked away for a moment, jaw clenched. It was just a joke, it wasn't funny, I said, firm. He looked like he wanted to disappear. 5 You crossed the line, Sam. She didn't say anything at first. Her arms were still folded, but her shoulders slumped just a bit. If you weren't my friend, I added, voice low but serious, you'd have seen how I crossed the line. Her eyes met mine, a flicker of surprise breaking through the tension. You're better than that, I continued. And I know you care about him, even if you pretend not to. Sam exhaled through her nose, gaze dropping to the ground. I didn't think it'd get that bad. 3 yet, well, it did. And you know what the worst part is? He still tried to laugh it off. Because that's what Freddy does. Sam nodded slowly. I'll fix it. Good, I said, softer now. Then I turned and walked back toward the building, leaving Sam standing alone in the quiet, finally thinking it through. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.